so don't worry.
Well, I guess we could start then with maybe telling the listeners who you are, what you do, maybe where you're from, things like that.
Yeah, so my name's Beverly Rage. That's my stage name, and a lot of my friends call me Bev, so it's kind of just how I go now. I've been a musician I just turned 40, and I started playing guitar at 15, so
Wow.
25 years.
You look great for 40.
Thank you.
Would never guess.
Thank you. It's kind of funny because I just shaved yesterday because I was filming something, but sometimes I have a big beard like you if I go for a while without being Bev, and I feel like my beard ages me a little bit. So
It always does.
Anytime I shave, I'm like, oh, I look pretty good under that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I just turned 40 last year and been a musician for 25 years. My first band I started when I was 16, 17, I think.
Yeah.
Back
in Chicago land area?
No, actually, I'm from Canton, Ohio.
I know Canton.
Home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So as a very much a queer kid growing up, I somehow knew everything you could know about football.
That usually does not happen.
It doesn't happen.
No.
But I hated it. So, well, actually, I kind of liked football growing up, but after I became a teenager, I started to rebel against it.
Okay. I have a weird
And-
question to ask you.
Yeah, of course.
You probably know about this game, given your age and football.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that game we played growing up, Smear the Queer?
Oh, yeah. We played it as well. I have, it was kind of just like tag, right?
Yeah.
With tackling. Yes, we definitely played it. It's not my favorite game to reference
No.
for reasons.
Of course.
Of
course. I figured with everything you just said, I had to be like,
Yeah.
I wonder if he grew up playing the game. And you just said, being queer. I wonder if that
Absolutely. And
bothered, how you thought about that.
I got smeared every time.
Were you small?
Actually, no. I was a normal sized child, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. But I was also like a sensitive, shy kid. So playing those like aggressive games was never my thing. I tried to, or my family kind of encouraged me to play sports. And even though I was somewhat athletic as a kid, it never was my thing because the competition of it always made me uncomfortable. So I didn't like aggression. I didn't like competition.
Hurting people. Yeah.
Anything like that. Well, I could hurt people verbally, but not physically.
Yeah.
But yeah, Smear the Queer probably has some deep-seated
of course.
Trauma within me, most likely.
Of course. I can only imagine. I that's why I was wondering because I grew up playing it too.
Yeah.
And I kind of described the way you described yourself reminded me of myself. I did not like violence. I was really bad at sports because I didn't like pushing it to where you had to kind of almost hurt or physically get involved with people.
Yeah.
Almost any sport. Football, especially football. And I didn't like hurting people. I was trying to like help people. So I was bad at being an athlete, even though I was really good at it. On a physical level, I can do the things. I just couldn't act them out well. And because of that, I would get made fun of and called all the homophobic things you could think of. So when playing that game, it also even though I'm not gay, it made me feel weird all the time because I was confused as to why we are doing, like, why are we calling this negative thing people, and why are we calling like whoever has it that? Like, it just confused me, and it always made me feel weird and bad. That might have been the first times I was starting to like sympathize and understand what it could be like to be homosexual. Like, as far as relating to on a human level. Like, why are we doing this to people just because of that? Because they're different.
That all makes sense for sure.
I don't know. It was the 90s. That's the first time I ever. Because if you were watching movies then, it didn't help. Music wasn't helping. Nothing really was. But just those types of things I remember.
Growing up in that time was really strange thinking back on it as a very confident and very openly and outwardly queer person these days. And I hate it when people my age are like, oh, it was so hard growing up as a queer person in the 90s. But it kind of was in many ways, especially growing up in like a rural space.
Yeah.
And I started understanding my sexuality very early, too. I came out when I was about 18 or 19 years old. But I knew that I was different or some sort of queer probably at like 12 or 13. So hearing all of those homophobic comments from my peers early on in my life was really detrimental to my coming out process, I think, and processing it. So once I left my hometown, like the world opened up to me. And I think that's when I started to flourish when it came to music and art and expressing myself and being more confident as a person. Whereas when I was a kid, I was just kind of quiet, shy, didn't really know how to express myself in any way, because any way that felt natural to express myself was a problem to others. So I do have a really great family, though, and especially my mom was really supportive of all my little artsy things that I would do, and being in theater and sewing classes and all that kind of stuff. So it was really nice to have support at home, at least.
So your family was pretty great about the whole situation.
Yeah, they've always been pretty great, but it was a different time back then.
Of
but
course.
my parents, I have a brother as well. They are some of my biggest supporters these days, and they all love Bev, and they love coming to see my band whenever they can. And it's been kind of an eye-opening experience for them too. I've taught them a lot, I think, about the queer world and gender and all of that stuff. That 70-plus-year-old people from Ohio maybe wouldn't need to know about otherwise, but I think that they're thankful that they do.
It probably helps them and maybe their personal lives when they're not in Chicago. They still live out there?
They live in Cleveland now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably helps a lot, though, because then any passive statement they might hear someone else in their world, they might have an answer for it now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And because that person's hearing it from them and not someone who they normally stereotypically think of as being whatever, they might be like, oh, well, if, for example, if Susie's saying that and Susie's 75 and I know Susie and Susie's, a heterosexual woman, then clearly like there's more to this than I might have thought.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's good that other people can bring that information back to places they might not have as much access to it.
Exactly.
Chicago's got a huge LGBTQ plus community, huge compared to other cities and other areas.
Yeah. And plus, it's probably better coming from someone like my parents rather than me, because I just call Susie a fucking bitch and and throw my drink in her face. So
does that happen a lot?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
It's mostly people named Susie.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. No. I don't like fighting with people. I will if I have to, but I kind of surround myself with people that aren't ignorant at this point. But it's fine. But it's kind of strange sometimes playing in this band when we're playing in like small towns, or especially being a drag queen in a band is hard sometimes, because oftentimes I have to get ready at the hotel and get to the show or take an Uber or things like that with people you don't know how they're going to react to it. So I think it's fun, but sometimes it could be seen as like a scary situation depending on where you are, especially right now.
And your size.
Yeah.
You're not a small person.
I'm not a small person, so especially with 6-inch heels on. So
that's size is a factor. If you're a smaller person or a woman to a man, whatever it is, it could be different, and that's something that it has to be true for anyone. Because if it's true for me walking down the street compared to like a friend of mine that's a woman, I can only imagine if you're wearing makeup and stuff, people might look at you differently or think whatever.
Exactly.
I can only imagine. When did you always do that before Bev and the Drinks, or did you start slow? Did the band kind of bring it out more?
Drag has always been something that I've been interested in since I was in my 20s, maybe. I grew up loving like John Waters movies, so that's kind of like my entryway, my gateway drug to drag. So like Divine and Edith Massey and people like that. Edith Massey wasn't a drag queen, but she looked like one. So I always was interested in drag, but I started doing it about 15 years ago or so, and just playing around with it, practicing. And then once I started Bev Rage and the Drinks in 2015, I decided that... So let me back up a little bit. So the origin story of Bev Rage and the Drinks, I should say, is that I was in a queer band prior to Bev Rage and the Drinks when I was in Ohio called Thunder Thighs. And that was kind of like my first queer punk band that I formed. And it was fun. It was kind of shocking, especially coming from the music scene in Cleveland, which is relatively small compared to Chicago. And I moved to Chicago in 2008. And that band kind of moved with me in some ways.
Any reason?
Like the idea. I moved after college. So I graduated college in 2007.
Okay.
And I just kind of wanted to leave Ohio. So I moved to Chicago and didn't know anybody. And I still had this idea of this queer band that I would eventually reform in Chicago. And it took me a really long time. Obviously, it took almost
7-8 years.
7-8 years to actually find some people to do it with. But the reason why I decided to combine my love of drag and punk rock music is that, one, I didn't see anyone else doing it.
No, it's not common.
It's definitely not common. There are some bands here and there over the years that have done what I do. But I don't know of any right now, at least, that are doing it.
Yeah, especially I also not to the extent. Like
there are some people that will kind of like cross dress or like,
of course,
but not to the extent
you look unrecognizable.
Yeah,
there's been times where I like didn't know if I met you already or your the makeup. I had no idea. I was like, because you look so unbelievable. It's a lot. I don't know how you do that every show.
It's a big transformation, and that's part of the reason why I like doing it.
How long does it take? How many minutes? How many hours? I'm sure you've honed it in, but
yeah,
there's no way that's fast.
It's not fast. It takes about 2 hours. Oh my God. To put my makeup on. I can do it faster if I have to.
Stressing me
I
out.
have stress dreams about it. I have stress dreams that I'll get to a gig and be like,
And how many times you do that a week, a month?
It depends on what we're doing. So we play about, well, it really depends on the year. Like last year we didn't play that much, but the year prior we played like 50 shows. So, or if we're on tour, we'll play every day for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is awful for my skin.
What's that like with the skin?
Yeah.
Do you use special lotions and stuff?
I have a skincare routine.
I can tell because your skin looks great, even though
you.
you've layered on a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
To the point where it's not just like standard where you can let your skin breathe. Like you have so much on, it's probably not letting it breathe right and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it really just depends. The most fun thing about it though is being able to do that transformation, just kind of turning into a new person. Because regardless of how I feel that myself out of drag and myself in drag are really the same person, you kind of gain a new sense of confidence when you're in drag that is just something that is hard to explain if you don't do it.
Yeah.
It's almost like being in a costume in some ways. So I never get nervous on stage, regardless of how large the crowd is or stage we're playing. I can talk to anyone, whereas I'm a little bit more reserved when I'm in like boy form.
Is that, you think, the fundamental reason why you wanted to initially start doing drag? You think you just felt that in your gut?
Well,
maybe it would help you not have to worry about that anymore.
It's helpful, although that wasn't the initial reason.
Okay.
So yeah, getting back to that a little bit. So the initial reason why I wanted to combine those two things, the drag and the punk rock, is that one, nobody was doing it, but also whenever I would go and see some bands that I, on CD or record, I would love, and I would say, I cannot wait to go see this band. I would sometimes go see them and their show would be boring, or their show would just kind of be dull and all the same thing. And when I was forming this band, I was like, I never want to be boring. I never want people to come see our show and think, oh, I hope they're done soon. So I really wanted to put on a show and kind of bring in some sort of theatrics into the music that we play, which is also a equally, if not more important part of the band, to make sure that the music is something that I'm really proud of. So live show plus music plus having this costume on that makes me invincible is all just the way that I really wanted to portray myself and the band. And we've grown so much over the years. In the beginning, it was kind of like we would throw out food, or we would just try to be shocking. But
I
at
remember
this,
that. You did floaty, like donut floaty
all of those
devices
things,
at DZ
yeah.
Fest.
But
like hot dogs and stuff.
we're a completely different band now, and we've had a lineup change that is what I think is the best we've ever been. And it's been that lineup for 5 years now, and our shows are completely different. We don't do some of the things we used to do, but we do new things, and we just have evolved so much as a band over these past 10 years that I'm really proud of it and where we've come.
Yeah, it's great to see. We were just talking about it when you got here, that it's been about 10 years since you started, and 9 years, I think actually 8 years since you first played DZ Fest.
Yeah.
And I remember when you first came through, everyone loved you, like my friends. And that was usually a big indicator if I should have a band come back. If everyone around is just like going on about them in a good way. And they were. Everyone really liked you. And you were a fan favorite of a good friend of mine, Tim Shirkowski, who's a retired English teacher now. But I never would have expected someone, he was probably in his mid-50s at the time. A mid-50s English high school teacher who was already coming to our festival. He was the high school teacher that we had.
Yeah,
And
I remember Tim.
Yeah.
He was an artist too, right?
amazing artist. Amazing artist. He made, I think one of the Bev Rage posters that he made. But I wasn't expecting him, and that made me even take it in a different direction, because I was like, if a middle-aged man who's just an English teacher and an artist is into this band while all these like teenagers and younger people are in him, like there's something special. Like what? Because you're appeasing 30, 40 years of people.
Yeah.
Which is not that common for like a punk rock band. It just isn't. So I was like, there's something unique here. So it's really cool. What I'm getting at is it's great to see that you're still doing it, because I thought it 8 years ago, and it's cool that you're still doing it. And you say now the lineup's even better than ever.
Yeah.
And you've been playing and touring more. Have you guys done outside of the U.S. at all?
We played one show in Canada.
One show in Canada. Where in Canada?
Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a West Coast tour you're doing?
We did a full U.S. tour with the band Bully.
Okay.
A few years ago.
I know
2
them.
years ago.
That must have been really fun.
It was incredible. Yeah. She asked us to go out with them in 2023, I believe. And we got to play all these cities that we've never played before. And
Good crowds and stuff?
Oh my God. At the size that Bully is or was at that time, it was really incredible. And we got
Was it like Lincoln Hall types venues?
the venue in Chicago was Thalia Hall.
Okay, so you were playing venue sizes like Thalia Hall around the country?
A lot of them were that size. Some of them were a little smaller. Some of
Okay.
them were like empty bottle sized.
Still,
But
I mean,
which is great if
yeah.
they're full for sure. There were a few clunkers in there, but
There's always a clunker.
but there's a clunker or two everywhere. So,
everywhere.
yeah, Boise, Idaho, maybe not the best show, but
How many people came to Boise?
it was a weird outdoor festival. It was kind of funny because it was this like weekly market. Think of like how like Daily Plaza has like those like weekly musicians that come in while the farmers market happens and that kind of thing. And I looked at their past lineups and they were like cover bands and like folk bands. And then ours was Bully and Bev Rage and the Drinks. And it was also, I remember it was 102 degrees
Oh my god!
that day. And when you're a drag queen, when you're a drag queen and playing in 102 degrees, that's those things don't go together.
Does it? I don't know a lot about makeup. Never really wore it except for when I played one of the guards that threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace in church.
Okay.
It's the last time I think I wore makeup, about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, side tangent. So I don't know what it feels like for your skin to like have to breathe through it. Could you? I don't know what that feels like. So like having your thick layer, does it make you just like you can't
It really
let the heat out of your body? Because I know your face is notorious for being a place to let heat out.
Yeah,
Your hands and your face.
The face definitely lets heat out. The makeup that I wear is very thick, the foundation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really breathe that much. You can sweat through it, so it's okay. And there are ways to make sure that it doesn't move to keep it on. So you have to like powder and all this other stuff. So my makeup won't move regardless of how hot it is. But the one thing that people don't think about is that most of your heat is released through your head. And if you're wearing a wig,
Right.
then that heat just kind of sits inside and it just kind of rains down around you. And I'm a really sweaty person, so so playing in the heat is always tough, but it's fun. I love playing outdoor festivals. They're incredible. But this one in Boise wasn't it wasn't the best. I remember there was like all these people bringing their like those like folding camping chairs with their coolers, and there's a bunch of like old like men with their like Oakley sunglasses on with their arms crossed,
Just
like
looking all
drinking their
angry.
Bud Light or whatever. I'm like, this is not our crowd.
No, and what year was this?
23.
23. Yeah, Boise
Yeah.
is. I mean, I've heard it's gorgeous. I'm sure it is, but I think it's more just like rural and
Yeah.
farming, and just
Yeah.
probably more it leans more conservative and stuff. I mean, that's the way it is when you're not in a major city. For
think
those who don't know,
I think Boise actually is kind of a cool city in general. And I do want to mention that even though that show might have been weird and there was some strange people that probably didn't want us there, there was also a group of like queer punk people that came out specifically for us. So, which is always really,
then it's worth it.
it's totally makes it worth it
Sure.
because you have that small group of people that really want to see you. So it kind of makes it feel special in a way because maybe it's like a safe space for them or like a haven.
They
where
definitely don't get that often.
No, exactly. So whenever you can go to a town like that, it provides some sort of like place for queer people that might not feel safe in the music scene or might not feel like they can express themselves otherwise. We want to be that for them.
Absolutely.
And regardless of where we play, there's always going to be at least a small group of people that come specifically for us because they know that they can be themselves there, which is really special. And that's why I will never stop playing like red states or in the South or
Yeah.
small towns because I think that it's important for us to be in a place like that.
That's a beautiful thing. You're absolutely right. It does the opposite if you go like, oh, I don't want to go there anymore because of it. Not everyone, but maybe 95% of the people might bother you, might feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But what about the 5%? And also, that's how the percentages grow. That's how you make a difference. It might just take a while. Yeah, and if you do it based off like red state, blue states, it's like, well, every state's pretty much red except for the major city in that state.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we doing? You just follow your heart, be nice to people. You might go to places where it's not really your vibe, but again, there could be a few people there.
Yeah.
And they may not get many bands or artistic bands or punk rock bands or queer bands. You could be the only one for the whole year.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
We're
kind of-
spoiled in Chicago.
Oh my
There's a
God.
lot. There's everything here. We forget that sometimes things don't come through to cities, and we get everything here. We
get
don't
it.
realize it.
Literally every tour comes through here.
Yeah.
You can see anyone. And we have an incredible queer scene here, punk rock scene.
It's
music
massive.
scene. Yeah. But the other thing I wanted to say about playing in like the smaller towns or the red states is that I've been through a lot in my life and I'm 40 years old, so it takes a lot to bother me and I can make it through any situation. It doesn't matter. People can say anything they want to me and it will roll right off my back. It does not matter. I've heard way worse than anyone in like Oklahoma can say to me. So if you're gonna come up to me and be homophobic, you better be ready for me to throw it right back at you because I do not put up with bullshit anymore because I'm too old for it and I've heard it all and I don't care. So it doesn't matter to me
Yeah.
anymore.
As you shouldn't. I mean, people still do that kind of stuff to you?
I have heard whispers at shows, and people will look at you strange, or people will just say ignorant things. It's kind of funny. One of the things that still does bother me a little bit is whenever I'm at a show, and it'll usually be like an older straight guy that will come up to me and try to like assert that he knows that I'm a boy. So he'll come up to me and like, hey man, hey dude, what are you doing? Like they'll always make sure that they say like dude or bro or something like that when I'm in full drag.
Yeah.
Which is really funny to me that they feel the need to make sure that I know that they know.
Yeah.
So I'll just
Like
like
they don't want to get caught being
Exactly.
fooled or something.
So I'll just be like, oh, I'm great, girl. How are you? But it's just so funny to me that like I don't know. They don't know what my gender is, but they just know that they are very confident that I'm not like a woman
So
or
they
a
gotta say
biological
something.
woman.
They gotta
Yeah.
say that. Just gotta slide something in.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a problem with people. I can't speak for every country, but it feels like in America where you have to say something.
Yeah.
And it can't be, I mean, I'm not saying something nice or a compliment. You got to say something else. Like you saying, bro, dude, guy. You know, you got to have your opinion. You got whatever happened to just either keeping your mouth shut and enjoying it, or enjoying it and saying something nice. Like the classic thing all of our moms said: if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't understand what happened to that etiquette. They're not your kid, and they're not your partner, and they're not like your nuclear siblings. If it's not that, nothing. It doesn't affect your life. You should not care at all.
Exactly.
You know, I don't know why people care so much. Why, you know, the slightly racist comments, slightly homophobic comments, slightly xenophobic comments. It's just like, it's always an older person. You're like, what do you? Why? Why do you care so much?
Exactly.
You don't know these people.
We were talking about it a little bit when I came in today, and there's something to be said about just being nice and just like treating people with respect and just kind of like holding whatever that comment is in if you are questionable whether or not it's going to be received well. Just like be nice to each other, especially in the music industry, because we're all just trying to be like artists and trying to get people to listen to our music because it's what we love. So just be nice to each other. Who cares? We're all working for the same thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And absolutely harmless. The more you work with musicians and artists or go to concerts, you realize someone who's maybe you grew up in a more conservative home. You've never seen like drag queen before, anybody in drag. If you don't know what's going on, maybe like ask a close friend in private, like, can you elaborate on this? Like, I don't know what this is, you know, I don't know what this means. But to have to like say something, or social media, I don't even. I can only imagine what people might say or comment on your stuff on social media, because it gets weird.
Luckily, the offensive ones get filtered out.
There you go.
So I usually don't delete anything, but there's a few every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny because we were at this festival in Milwaukee last year, and we were playing, and afterwards this group of like teenage boys approached me, which is like the scariest demographic of people when you're like queer or a drag queen, because that's where all my trauma comes from teenage boys.
Okay. Was it Summerfest?
It was Bayview Bash.
Okay.
And we were playing, or we just got done playing, and this group of teenage boys approaches. I was like, oh, fuck. And they approach, and they're like, we have a question. I was like, okay, what? And they were like, are you a drag queen? And I was like, yes. And they were like, oh my God, you're the first one I've ever met. And they were like so excited about it. I was like, oh, okay, maybe teenage boys aren't so bad now.
Things have changed.
Things have changed, yeah.
They have.
Yeah.
They have some, I mean, it's not perfect. And we have room to grow, but it is not 1995.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not 1985. It's not 1975.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not, you know, anything pre-60s. I mean, you couldn't do anything unless you were a straight white man in America.
For sure.
You had no hope. Not really, not much.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's not perfect, but it is so much better. The fact that you can have that experience, and then you can think back that they used to be the worst people you had to deal with.
Yeah.
And now they're like admiring you.
Absolutely.
In a different state, 1,000 miles from home.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Exactly. And it's pretty incredible. The response that we get and the response that I get as a drag musician is 99.5% positive. And you just have to think about that aspect of it, that almost everyone is really positive and supportive of you. And those are the people that deserve your time. You don't need to give your time to the people that are making rude comments or are homophobic, because they're never going to support you. So who cares?
Right.
Like, what's the point of even responding to anyone? That's what they want. So respond to the people that actually enjoy your music or support you, because that's who deserves your time.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I don't even respond to any of the negative comments anymore.
Good. I mean, plus if you bite on it, then you can kind of give them validation. Like, oh, see, they're weird, or they got attitude problems, or they whatever. If you say nothing, then they might have to think like, I really provoked that person. They didn't do anything. Maybe they're not bad like I thought, or they're not whatever like I thought.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Never bite on remarks, especially, again, internet comments, all that. It's the worst place. So you just never bite on it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. I say that now, but after this, I'll probably be like, oh, motherfuckers. But we'll see. It depends. I stopped drinking recently, so now I can't even get drunk and be like, oh, I'm gonna go fight people on the internet.
Oh, you used to do that?
No, not really. But it would definitely be something that could be exacerbated by it.
Nice. You drank a while?
What's that?
You drank for a bit?
Oh, Well, I am just taking a vacation from alcohol.
Yeah.
I've started to rethink what goes into my body recently. I've been eating differently. I've been treating myself better, and alcohol was all part of that.
Sure.
I was never like a huge, heavy, major drinker, but I decided to take a break from it. So I don't think it's a forever thing, but it's been about 6 months.
Okay. I mean, that's always better. It's
yeah.
always good to take breaks.
Yeah, I feel great in the morning, and
Oh, that's the best.
yeah, I lost a few pounds, so
That'll
hey,
happen.
why
Skin
not?
will look better.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, alcohol, it's a complicated one. I go back and forth on all the time, you know?
It's kind of funny having a band called Bev Rage and the Drinks, and
Right.
being, at least right now, a sober person. Well, sober-ish.
Marijuana.
Yeah, yeah,
Who doesn't?
exactly.
That's the one where I'm like, I feel like I smell and see weed more than now than alcohol. You know, and what's great about this city, for those who don't know, in Chicago, you're never going to get in trouble smoking a joint walking down the street.
Oh, no,
And it's
never.
amazing.
Yeah.
Compared to like being a teenager. I mean, remember 2009 or 8 when you were first here?
Yes.
You couldn't do that. I mean, in certain neighborhoods, you always have been able to, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But in most places, you'd be like, I'm not going to just walk past a police officer with a joint. Like, am I crazy? And now you can, and they're just like, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they're also whatever because they have so much nonsense to worry about.
Exactly.
They
And
don't
it's-
care.
And as a white person, I have the privilege of not having that worry, I think, too.
It is a big difference.
Which
yeah.
I recognize. But I'm more of a sit on my couch and smoke a joint at night person at this point. So, but I love the fact that that's a possibility
Yeah.
here. And
Yeah, you just don't have to worry. It's just
Yeah.
nice not having to worry about any of it.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good point you made. It depending on how you look, even when I had like much longer hair and a bigger beard 10, 15 years ago, the cops are so brutal to me. I mean, I got in trouble so much. I didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
I was a sober kid who never been arrested yet. I was always getting in trouble because I would deliberately look bad just to prove a point, and it worked. They treated me like garbage. I was in many jails as a kid for just being in a forest,
Yeah.
being in the wrong place,
Of course.
just dumb stuff. And then I cut my beard and shave my head or cut my hair, get better jobs, wear nicer clothes, and they treat me so nice. And same person,
Yeah.
you know, how you look, unfortunately, is how society's going to treat you. Just like I'm sure we've been talking about. You know, you probably have a very different experience when you are dressed like this versus that. Well, yeah, what
Absolutely.
is that like being? Because you said you kind of feel more safe. You get to kind of be bulletproof in a way. Like how eyes look at you, the words, the double takes. First, when you're just by yourself, what is it like? There's got to be big differences. Or
It's
maybe
a
you're
hu-
just so used to it. I don't
It's
know.
a huge difference, and I don't spend time in drag other than when I'm performing,
Right.
which is pretty infrequently. It's like a small percentage of the time I am a person.
Of course, yeah.
So whenever I am in drag, there are certainly looks, and I would expect that because I look crazy. And of course, like every drag queen is trying to garner attention. I mean, that's part of it in many ways. So I would expect people to look at me and double take and back in the day, give me free drinks. But but outside of it, I mean, I'm just kind of like a normal looking person and just kind of go through life in that way. I do think I am very visibly queer, so that's just a fact of my existence. But outside of that, I just kind of go through life normally.
Like how you look now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Visibly queer?
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe not necessarily visibly, but as soon as I open my mouth, and
I was almost say a rhetorical question.
yeah,
I was like,
maybe
I think
maybe I'm verbally queer.
because if it's visual, then we got to rethink what we think.
Yeah, yeah.
What we call someone who might be gay. Like doesn't make if you're I'm like what you look like you were like in the military. Or something. You got tattoos or you come with a green jacket.
Yeah.
I know you mean though. Yeah, I have some friends that they're always like, I don't know why people think I'm gay, and then they say certain things. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem with it, but I think it could be the stuff you're saying. Like, do you hear how you're talking right now? Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I talk with my hands a lot. You know, it all just depends on.
But also, if you're really particular with your speech and words, not even like with any other way of speaking, people could think will think you're gay. I mean, I got it all the time just because I was always nerding out about stuff.
I mean, I can butch it up, Ben. I can do it anytime you want.
The most butch. I can get Tom Waits. I can't do it. I need to have a cigarette and some bourbon, and then I can get to my Tom Waits.
It's kind of funny though. My singing voice is much higher than my talking voice, so sometimes when people either see me as Bev or hear me sing, there is no correlation between the two either, because my voice is fairly deep as a boy. But I don't know. It's all kind of a mind fuck.
It's confusing. No, you've confused me in the past. Like you now with your voice, and then Bev Rage with the makeup and the performance. Yeah, completely different person. You wouldn't like nobody would ever be able to tell. It's insane. Like not in a bad way. It's remarkable how stark of a difference. And then the voice thing is a big one too. That must be interesting because there's already a psychological phenomenon that we all have from when we just speak and sing versus when we do it in a microphone here back to ourselves. Yeah. Because you hear your voice at a higher register. It's a completely different pitch. But with you, with it audible and visual, especially if it's like a video, that's got to be interesting. Because like, does it feel like you're looking at yourself, or does that make sense? I'm asking?
Yeah, I think
most people already have that with just voice. That's why most people don't like to hear themselves. It sounds like their evil twin is singing. It's like them, but something's off. But you add in the fact that you sing higher and the makeup. Yeah. And you see a video or performance of yourself. Not necessarily a recording, but audio and video. I wonder, does that ever feel, or you're just like, nah, that's just me.
I feel like I'm so used to it that it really doesn't do that to me. And my singing voice has always been like this. Yeah. Like I've been in bands for 20 years and they haven't always been as Bev. So my singing voice hasn't really changed. It's improved. And it's altered itself a little bit just by technique, but it's always kind of sounded like this. So that has never really mattered to me. And I kind of, whenever I see myself on video as Bev, it's just kind of like me. It doesn't, nothing matters because I'm so used to it. I mean, I kind of think of myself in kind of a duality in some ways. And like I said earlier, some of my friends don't even know my real name. So they just call me Bev, and I answer to it as much as I answer to the other one. Yeah. So we've melded into one person that just has different expressions of our like visibility.
What's it like? A whole different direction we're going now. What's it like being 40, being in a band versus 30 versus 20?
Oh, so different. So different.
Because, I mean, you started this band when you were 31 then?
Yeah.
That's pretty, I mean, it's pretty late. Most people don't start a band at 31 then stay in it for a decade.
Exactly.
You know? So it's pretty unique.
It's quite unique that I've started drag late in life and also started this band late in life. Yeah. So my first band, I was like 16 or 17, and it was a band in Cleveland. Would drive to practice after school and just kind of like made my life as a musician in that way. So much different than what I'm doing now. I mean, it was more about partying. It was more about having fun, just kind of like being a little crazy. And then when I moved to Chicago, I took a break from music for about 7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was going through some stuff trying to like figure out how to be a person in a new city, I was dirt poor. I was trying to just kind of get my life together at that point. Started therapy. That was helpful. Oh, yeah. And then when I started Bev Rage and the Drinks, I was, like 30, 31. And it was more about just kind of restarting my musical life and my life as an artist. And now, 10 years later, it's more about quality and making sure that the art I'm making is something that I'm really proud of, making sure the music that I make is something that I think is high quality, interesting, a little bit different than things that I've been doing for the past 20 years. So we have new music coming out this year, and it sounds way different than anything we've ever done, which I'm super proud of. And I don't think people should be doing the same thing for 20 years.
No, I don't understand when a music fan, a music appreciator gets upset that a band is like sounding different or trying something new.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, that's what if they're not doing that, I get upset. If I put on a band's another album, their sophomore album, their fourth album, and it just sounds like the first one, the second, I'm like, why? Nothing in life is stagnant. I want change. I hope that it's maybe in a cool direction, something I may not have thought of or heard before, but I'm not going to be mad at it, especially if I don't understand it. It might mean I just need time with it. Let it set, let it rest, and then come back to it. And that's okay. There's like a couple other 10 million bands I can go listen to, and the time that it takes for me to just change my perspective, come back to this album a couple months later. I love that about music. I don't understand why bands are just like, oh, they're so different now. They've changed.
Yeah.
It's like I want to hear that my friends have changed and the artists I enjoy changed. Another thing, old friend groups, oh, he changed. He's different now. It's like, I hope that we're not 18 years old putting aerosol cans in pipes and blowing them up in my backyard anymore, shooting them at, neighbors' houses or whatever. I hope we don't do that anymore. We're different now. I hope that we're trying something new and doing this. That's a good thing.
And the thing is, like, I don't understand the thought process of just being stagnant and not trying to learn and teach yourself new skills in all of life, like not just music. So life would be really boring if you weren't trying to do new things and trying to figure out a way to improve your life in many ways. So it's all the same with music. Like, I rely more now on collaboration than I ever have in my life. 10 years ago, I would write every single thing myself and say, this is the way I wrote it. This is the way we're going to play it. But now I find immense value in collaboration and being able to write like a skeleton of a song, taking it to my songwriting partners and being like, let's make this more interesting and change this into something really cool. And that's what we've been doing. And it's really fun because you'll see this thing that you made in its like raw form transform into something totally different that you're really proud of. And I can't play every instrument, so putting synth on something or putting different types of instrumentation, or even I'm not the best guitar player in the world. I'm a rhythm guitarist, so hearing what our lead guitarist can do to the songs is really incredible. So, so it's been really fun to kind of almost release creative control in the project in many ways, because I have creative control over so many other aspects of it that why not?
Yeah. Doesn't make you like less of a musician or a bandmate.
Yeah.
That takes maturity, because I always had a hard time with that early on playing music. I always wanted to like do everything. Just do, every single thing I want to do it. And then I've gotten older. I'm like, I can still do my thing, and I can have a big picture idea, but I don't have to like control everyone and tell them what they can and can't. It's just, I almost want their take and their taste and their style, their 20 years of musical experience to add to my 20 years, to their 20 years. If you take everyone's musical experience, it's 100 years of music between us. We can come up with something better than if it's just my 20 years alone,
Exactly.
And I'm not a drummer, just like, you said rhythm guitar. So what your drummer, Mary Rose, can come up with, is it could help you so much more because you haven't been playing drums as long as they have. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although I don't feed her ego. She doesn't. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love you, Mary Rose. But it's kind of funny because like 10 years ago, when I started this band, I was almost more rigid and serious with less experience and less drive than I am now. Whereas right now with the band, I do have standards, and I do think that it is really important to uphold those standards. But also, I'm having much more fun with it now because I can release myself and just say, whatever happens, happens. Right. I'm not pretending like I am going to get famous. I'm not pretending like this is the end of the world if we don't play this festival or something. And just kind of like let it happen as it happens and enjoy the ride, because I don't know, being a band is fun. Who cares?
So much
Who
fun.
cares what happens?
I'm glad you said that, because some people they're really worried about it, and they want that fame, they want that life. let me be clear, they really don't want that life. You and I both know most people couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
You gotta, the way you have to live, the sacrifices, the lack of normalcy, the lack of a weekend, the lack of a love life. I mean, the list goes on of just, you can't have a normal family. You can't do anything really normal. And musicians are paid so poorly now that if you are making it, it still means you're sleeping poorly. You're just like, you're getting paid, but the whole process along the way is not easy. It's not hard.
Unless you're in one of the biggest bands,
Well,
you're not making.
If you're in the biggest.
Well, even if you're at like a mid-level, like these bands that everybody has seen playing at like Talia Hall and stuff, they're still making not much money.
No.
They're not making enough to live.
No, they're not. And that, guess what? That's just the one tour.
Yeah.
Are they able to do that for the next 30 years?
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
So, not that people shouldn't aspire to this stuff. The real issue is the system itself, that the fact that they're not given enough more money to have longevity.
Yeah.
Because it's already a hard enough job, but if you are given the financial backing to do it, most people can handle doing it, you know? It's the fact you might only get like one or two like awesome tours in your lifetime that actually pay you 30 grand for a year.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Which is not enough.
That's not enough to live.
No.
Especially in Chicago. It's like,
It's so expensive.
yeah, exactly.
Why did you come here? Why'd you do this to yourself? Is it that better than Cleveland?
Well, I mean, Chicago's pretty affordable, honestly, for the size of city it is.
Especially if you come to Bridgeport.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or what neighbor? You coming up from the north side?
I live in Andersonville, which makes me seem rich, but I'm not.
There's a couple pockets
Yeah.
on the north side, like at Andersonville.
I actually bought my house a few years ago with a friend of mine, and we got like the most amazing deal on it, and it was impossible to pass up. So we got an inspector for our house, and he told us that we should tear it down. But we didn't, obviously.
Wait, before you bought it or after you bought it?
Before.
Okay, I was going to say, usually it's before. Just want to make sure. Why tear it down?
It's just really old. It's from 1888.
Who isn't, though?
Exactly.
I'm 1890. This house is 1890.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, obviously they remodeled stuff, but
Yeah.
1890. So
But yeah, it's been a
it's
really
old.
But speaking of like learning new skills, though, like we have renovated it ourselves. We haven't paid a contractor for hardly anything, and we've just kind of done everything
That's
ourselves.
what I'm talking about.
So can you imagine these like limp wrists, like hammering
I was
things
just gonna,
and
I'm
putting
glad
up drywall?
You crack the jokes. I always, I let the person make a joke about themselves. That's not the gayest thing I've ever heard.
It's been really fun, though.
Their own person doing the manual, hard,
Yeah.
grinding, dirty work. That's pretty awesome.
It's been fun. But yeah, like going back to money, though, I kind of wanted to mention.
Oh, yeah, money.
That I am a huge advocate for musicians and fair pay. And I think that bands and musicians are so incredibly underpaid that I advocate for just asking what you are worth at shows or at festivals or whatever you're playing, and don't play for minimum wage anymore. So I know that some shows can't bring in enough money to pay someone $200 or $300, but we should figure out a way to like make the system work in a way that bands are getting paid a little more fairly for the work that they're putting into it. Because even these big shows that come through, the support slots will sometimes offer a band with 4 people in it $100 for a sold out show. And it's bullshit. And I advocate that bands say no and don't play those shows, because if someone turns it down, someone else is going to pick it up. So don't play a show for $100 anymore, especially at a sold out venue. Just because it's exposure or you'll get drink tickets or whatever, it's not worth it. It's undervaluing yourself.
Yeah.
Unless there's another reason to play it. If it's like a band that you love or something, sure, go for it. But I'm not going to be doing that anymore.
You heard it here first. Planet Earth. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. It's a hard one because, sometimes there's you can justify it because it might be a bigger band. And you're like, man, this is going to like, there could, even if 10% of the crowd checks us out, we can gain 200 new fans tonight and all the streams and the vinyl sales and all that. I know you mean, but it's almost like you're just like robbing Peter to pay Paul with that stuff.
Yeah.
You're not really, you're kicking the can down the road of the problem. I mean, it really stems from our system where government puts its money and its assets, the way taxes work with clubs and whatnot. There should be way more incentives for the club owners to not be super rich, but also have a good job that gets by, the bartenders, like everyone involved.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we don't put our money towards it, because if the normal things that we do in our society to maintain being human beings, like going out for the arts, which is 100% of everyone does it. It just might be a different art. Maybe it's a movie, maybe it's fashion, maybe it's food, culinary arts. I say this all the time. It's always the arts you go to. If we don't invest in them, they start disappearing. If the Empty Bottle goes under in Thalia and Lincoln Hall and Beat Kitchen, then what? Then what are we going to do? We're all going to kill ourselves. Like, what are we going to do for fun? We'll lose our minds. We'll all just go on our phones the whole time, give more money to the tech companies. So stuff needs to be done by more officials, which is hilarious because they're never going to do anything because they're not artists. They're not struggling, and they're bought and paid for. So I don't know. I think people like you and I, people who do enough, we talk about enough. If we keep trying, maybe it'll help. But we gotta get elected. We gotta get you in the Senate or Congress. Could you imagine you?
I have too many demons.
That's what you say during the debate. I have too many demons. You're just dressed up as Bev Rage too. That'd be hilarious.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
But
it's
I
the
think
unfortunate thing about it is we need people like us and that they've been doing it for 20, 25 years. That really, really know the problems and have no problem calling it out and can be honest, but like no one would do it.
I mean, there's something to be said, and so many people talk about it, but there just needs to be some sort of reform in the music industry where Ticketmaster and all that bullshit.
Live Nation Ticketmaster could suck my balls. And I don't say that often.
It's the worst.
I really don't.
But yeah, there should be some. I have a lot of opinions on the music industry.
Say it, please. No, I do too.
Also,
I've only ever done stuff DIY, so you're talking to the right person.
Here is my crazy idea, and I'm looking for investors. So I would love to start a music venue. I don't want to be all that involved in it, but I will throw my opinions into a music venue where most of the shows start at 6 p.m.
Josh, are you reading my mind? I've been talking about doing this forever.
I would absolutely love it. Shows are over by...
It's not because you're 40 and I'm 35 either.
No.
It's not because of that.
No. Shows are over by 10.
Yes.
Or 9.
Yes.
There are at most 3 bands, sometimes 2.
Just 3 or 2.
And we can all go out to a show that starts at 6 p.m. It's great. You can go out to dinner afterwards if you want. Doesn't that sound incredible? We can call the venue Bev's.
So I 100% agree with you, except there's this demographic of 18 to 25 that gets off work at 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Or even some people who are even older, but you know what I mean? Mostly they're that age. I was that age. That's why I went to the 10 p.m. shows.
Yeah.
And that's where it won't work.
Very true.
Because they also are the biggest demographic that does go to shows. Is that age group.
See, I don't like this. But
there could be 2 ones. Why not have both? Why not have both?
So Bev's will have the early show, and then Ben's will have the late show.
I want the early one.
Well, too bad.
I'm 35. I want early.
You're younger than me.
Ungodly amount of shows that I want to go to, wish I can go to, or get invited to, whatever it is, and it's at 10, and it's at 11, and it's at 9, and I'm so tired to get up at 6 every day. I'm just like, why? Where was all these amazing invites like 15 years ago? Why do I get cool invites now that I'm older and I'm like tired all the time?
Yeah.
You know, I know you know what I mean. It's sad. It's just like, I want to do all these things. It's just so late. These shows get out at 11 or, midnight, 1, 2.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I think there'd be a
being a musician that is playing these shows too, it's like you have to get to sound check at like... Say the doors are at 9 or the show starts at 9. You have to be at soundcheck at 5 p.m.
It's ridiculous.
And you're there until 2 a.m. It's like, oh my God, get me out of here.
You know what more venues need to do too? And I know it's cost for them up front, but it saves their talent buyers and their managers and their bartenders so much hassle, is having a really good house drum kit and bass amp.
Oh my God, yes.
Because guess what? Guess who had that a lot? This guy. And guess which every band loved? All these bands were supplied gear, as you remember, and no one ever complained. And down here, everyone supplied gear and nobody complains. And I almost force it. Like, this is a untouched, drum kit. Like,
Yeah.
better than yours because mine doesn't move.
Yep.
It stays still. It doesn't have, it doesn't change from humidity and temperatures all the time. It's not beat up.
Yeah.
So probably just use that. And here's a great big bass amp. Probably use that. Who wants to lug around their bass amp? And I know bass players. I know they love their tone.
Sure.
Unfortunate bass players. If you're at a venue, it's all muffled, blown out, 4 18-inch subs, and it's just, and then if it's on your phone, well, no one can hear anything below 100 hertz, so they can't hear your bass anyway. I love you, bass players. I'm saying this because I know you too well.
Or provide like the cab for the bass.
Yeah,
and just bring your head.
Bring your head, or just venues should just buy a good bass amp, good drum kit, maybe guitars, but let the guitar players get crazy with that.
Yeah.
And they're not as complicated to set up and take up as much space.
Exactly.
But that alone would save the sound check situation would be almost ratified. Instead of 9, show up at 7:30.
Be incredible.
Bada bing, 30 minutes, 10 minutes per band, done.
It would
Everyone
also make
shares.
touring so much easier.
That's another thing. Touring, time, space, theft.
Yeah.
All of it goes up,
When we go on tour, we have to rent a big van. And
There's 4 of you, right?
4 of us, yeah. But we have the drum kit. We have Bev's wardrobe and all that stuff.
God,
so
Bev's, she's such a...
I know, she takes up so much space. It's funny because there's always like a loose wig like in the van, just like rolling around. It drives my band crazy.
Have you ever heard of the band Nova One?
No, I don't think so.
They played 2019. They're from Rhode Island, but they all wear pink wigs.
Oh, okay.
And they stayed the night here once, and after they left, I found like pink wig hair, like everywhere in places I normally would. I'm like, why is there? Oh, the wigs.
Yeah.
I was so confused. I was like, why is there pink wig hair everywhere? But you saying that just reminded me of that because I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah.
So your wig stuff's everywhere, makeup stuff.
It's crazy because like when we go on any sort of extended tour, like over like a few days, I always start out really organized and put together, like everything is in its place, everything is in a tub or a suitcase, and then like over time, like a shoe will be out or like the wig will be like loose off the wig head, or like my clothes don't fit in my suitcase anymore for whatever reason.
Have you slowly started to relate to the cliche standard female experience with the hair and the makeup and the brother getting mad at the sister because she has too much stuff in the van on the way?
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
I'm definitely
in a cliche, stereotypical
yeah,
way.
of course.
You know what I mean?
I could never relate to the female experience.
No, I don't mean it like that.
But,
I meant like in leaving things around,
of
like
course.
the makeup, the hair.
I'm definitely the messy one in the band. I can say that much for sure. And
That's hilarious.
and they get a little frustrated with me often. But hey, I mean, the band's named after me. I can. So they can deal with it.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure Mary.
I sign those
deal with
paychecks.
it. There you go. Do you put Bev on?
I'm kidding. I don't.
Bev.
They don't get checks. They get paid under the table. So
Oh man, that's another funny thing I love about the paying under the table is how many people do that. Yet how that's like okay, but then you hear about like any time that someone's not in that world, if they're not, like we get really upset, like they didn't pay their taxes. It's like most people I know don't pay their taxes. Right?
Yeah.
Like what are we talking about? Like what world do we live in? Like anything in service, anything in the arts.
yeah.
Anything in that world, it's like 15% accurate on probably what they're claiming and paying, but maybe 1% accurate. I mean, who in the right mind would be that honest when you're getting screwed this bad all day, every day?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clearly, I pay taxes on every single cent that I make.
Clearly,
but,
everyone does.
But if I were to not do that, then it would be really nice to get paid in cash for most things.
Yeah.
Because I do think that like Venmo and all of those apps that people often will pay like for merch or whatever with are going to start to be taxed.
Yeah.
I think they already have a lot of them, but as of like last year, I didn't have to claim any Venmo.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of strange. And nobody has cash anymore, so you have to figure out a way around it at this point.
Yeah, I miss the cash days. Not much cash anymore. And then when I do get paid in cash, it's always obnoxious. It's always like 100 singles. I'm like, why? Just give me a $100 bill.
Yeah.
I got all these singles and fives. The machine won't take it.
You know, it's funny because I don't know how familiar you are with drag shows, but at normal
I've
drag...
never even been to one.
Really? Okay,
So
great.
enlighten me.
So at most drag shows, drag queens get tipped. So people just kind of know that you're supposed to tip the drag queens during their performances. But I can count on one hand the amount of times I've gotten tipped while playing, but it's always at like if we're hired to play at some sort of like drag centric thing, people will be holding money up, and it's such a foreign experience as a band doing that. But I'm like, oh wait, I am a drag queen, and people are expecting that they're supposed to be tipping. But when do I actually grab that money? So it's just kind of strange.
That's weird. So you're crossing over drag queen and then into a show. Like you're playing at a place that would have a drag queen performance normally?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so you're kind of like playing a show, but also doing the drag queen thing. So you were getting like, do people just hold tips up to you?
At those places, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or sometimes at festivals, like if we're playing Pride Fests or something like that, where
Yeah.
people are really familiar with drag queens, then they will try to tip, which is incredible. I encourage it, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of weird because I have this experience of being a drag queen, but not being able to experience the payment side of it in many ways. So so it's kind of funny. I don't know. It's I love what I do, and I love being able to bring drag into places that it's not usually seen, which is part of the reason why I do this, because I like to put that experience in front of people that aren't used to it or aren't familiar with it in some ways. But it's always kind of nice to go to a drag show and be like, oh, these queens are getting money. They're getting like hundreds of dollars in singles a night.
Man, I need to start doing that. What? I've been wearing women's clothes forever. No one ever gave me anything. I just didn't put on the makeup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to always get girls' clothes from the thrift store because their fashion design was eons ahead of men. It was strictly because of that, because they had cool designs and patterns and stripes, very European stuff.
Yeah.
But in America, men's clothing at a medium level of like everyday guys that are, you know, dorks that can get good clothes. It took until the last decade, the internet really, for that to kind of hit.
Yeah.
Before that, only women had cool clothes in America, unless you had enough money to go to like Michigan Avenue as a guy.
Yeah.
If you just went down to like any day stores in 2005, you weren't going to find cool, unique patterns and fabrics and styles as a guy. But you could at a thrift store because it's the old clothes that the girls would get rid of.
Yeah.
So I used to always wear crazy paisley stuff with like the built-in like scarf into the shirt, you know.
Sure.
Wild stuff like that. And I always loved it. I'm like, man, women have way better fashion sense than guys. And now it's caught up to where you can find really cool unisex clothes or different variations. But it took a bit. And I'd always wear those clothes and buy from the ladies section. Everyone was always like, you know, these are girls' clothes. Like the buttons are on the wrong side. All these things, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. They're better clothes than the guy. I'm sorry, men don't make cool clothes.
Yeah.
Again, I was shopping at Walmart and Kohl's. I was poor.
Sure.
So, like, obviously they weren't good, but at least the women's fashion, even at those places at JCPenney's or whatever, they had something. They had color and life and texture to them. They weren't just flannel or like a blank shirt and flannel and a blank shirt. So I used to always shop there and wear those kind of clothes. And even like girls in college and stuff would always be like, your shirt's so nice. I would love to have your shirt, like that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a little side thing. I remember always just kind of getting picked on or messed with like from wearing that kind of clothes. And my rebuttal was always like, men, we just haven't gotten to where they are with like being open with style and fashion and colors and mixing patterns and just like trying something, you know? A lot of men's clothes can be quite boring and dull and sterile.
No, I agree.
You know?
And it's kind of like I used to dress a lot more flamboyantly as a boy back before I did drag.
Okay.
And now that I have drag to express kind of like that flamboyance and that style in some ways, I dress more boring on my day-to-day life.
It's interesting how that works.
Which is kind of funny just because it's easier sometimes.
I mean, 2 hours, that makeup for 2 hours that you said. That sounds...
It's fun though.
I'm sure. I just cannot imagine doing that.
I love doing drag and I love drag makeup and I love experimenting and it's hard. It's not an easy art form to master. But I've always been into so my kind of like origins of makeup and drag and all that is that I was always like a big Halloween kid. So
okay.
I've been doing like monster makeup for years, and I just kind of think of Bev as the extension of the monster makeup in a more like beautiful, organized way in many ways. So I've always been interested in kind of like transformation.
It's just
and
fun. It's a
and
cool thing to
fun.
do.
Yeah.
You change it up a bunch of different stuff, try new things. So it's just like
I do, yeah. I try to, and there's a limited amount of time where I would say that there's a line between making myself completely different every time, because I also like people to be able to recognize that it is still Bev.
okay.
So I'm not gonna make my makeup like
Too different.
totally different. So that's important to me, but I also like there are times where I put makeup on and I'm not Bev. So I can try a bunch of new cool things
Okay.
whenever I do it. And it doesn't even have to be like drag. It can be monster makeup or old age makeup, things like that.
So outside of doing your own makeup, you've just kind of I've always had like a natural inclination for doing like makeup and hair and makeup design, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's all just kind of like an art form.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've always been artistic person.
Sure.
So drawing or painting. So it's all kind of the same. It's just like you have to figure out how it looks on the face. You have to figure out how to blend things. As far as hair goes, I didn't know how to style wigs when I started drag, but now I do almost everything myself. I do purchase some specific wigs from people, but most of everything that I do is myself.
Do you like the real hair or the synthetic hair ones?
And now synthetic.
Okay.
Yeah, the human hair wigs are both really expensive, and they are just kind of like, they're not what my illusion is. It works for some people. Human hair is more usually just kind of like a natural, like beautiful look, whereas I kind of like to amplify like the monstrous aspect of it. Not that I'm like a monstrous looking drag queen or anything, but there is something to be said about how my hair is a foot higher than my
your hair
head.
is it's something else.
Exactly.
It'd be difficult to do it to natural hair all the time.
You
Your hair,
can't-
you'd
you
ruin
can't.
it. You'd
Yeah, you
ruin it. The
can't.
chemicals alone, you'd have to be using all the time.
Yeah, you can't.
No.
So everything is synthetic that I use, at least.
I thought so. I was just curious, you know. So what's your favorite like drag event or drag place to go visit? Where would you recommend for me?
Where would I
go check out?
recommend? Well, Chicago's best drag venue closed last year.
Oh.
Berlin. So that was where I would mostly go.
Oh, I've heard of that
It was on
place.
Belmont.
Yeah, why did it close?
It's a complicated story, but it was
okay.
about a union that was forming, and the owners of the club, instead of working with the union, decided to just close it.
What kind of union?
It was the employees of Berlin. It's complicated though. There's two sides to the story,
Okay.
and
I mean, if you
won't-
don't know,
yeah,
it's
I won't
totally
pretend.
fine.
I won't pretend to know everything that went down.
Totally
but
okay.
The end result was that the club closed.
Okay.
And it was a club that had been open since like the 80s.
Oh,
so it was like
wow.
a really deep institutional drag
That's
spot.
awful.
And it wasn't all drag. It was also like house and dance music too.
Yeah, I've heard of Berlin. I just didn't know about the closing, like the information about it.
So that was an incredible place that had a ton of drag. They had all these like alternative parties. And that was where I would go mostly. Because I like the kind of out of the box drag, like the alternative styles. But you can find drag everywhere. You can find drag in Chicago every night of the week at multiple venues.
Right.
Mostly gay bars, but there's drag at like Liars Club.
I was just wondering what would
My
you,
favorite?
Yeah, your favorite. Because I mean, I
Yeah.
know you could see it all, but I was wondering
Yeah.
like what's your favorite and like what would you recommend to me? Like, you know.
Yeah, well, my favorite was Berlin. When it closed, I've been struggling to find a venue that makes sense for me to go to. Like I'll go and see drag at places like Hydrate sometimes, or Roscoe's, or I went to a Liars Club show the other day that had drag, and it was incredible. So I saw that there was a drag performance at Kohl's, which is
okay.
funny.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, so there's all kinds of venues. I mostly will follow queens as opposed to venues. So if I see some queens that I like and know that are good performers, I'll go see them wherever they are.
Do you ever perform, or how often do you do that?
I don't perform outside the band.
Okay. I didn't know if you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not a lip sync artist, and I don't pretend that I can be one.
Right.
And that's mostly what those other queens will do.
Right.
I have my skill sets, and it's not that.
And at least it's the band thing. And
Yeah.
you even can have some venues where you have kind of like a crossover, of it, which is really cool.
For sure. There is this really cool drag show, and I haven't been to one in probably about 6 months or so, but it's called Dim Sum and Drag. And
That's a great name.
it's at a dim sum place in
I was
Uptown.
going to say it better be.
It's incredible, and they'll have themes. And one of the more fun ones I went to was called Everything Everywhere All at Brunch. And it's all South Asian or Asian queens
That's
that are
amazing.
performing there. So it's hosted by a South Asian drag queen named Abhijit, and she's just hilarious and so fun. But Everything Everywhere All at Brunch was just like
That's a
so
great
much fun.
name.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and a great movie.
Check out Dim Sum and Drag though. It's at Farama in Uptown.
Where is it at?
Farama.
Okay. Dim Sum
It's
and
great. I
Drag.
think they do it monthly. Maybe
Okay.
maybe bi-monthly
Okay.
at this point. So much fun. You get free food too. Well, you pay a cover and you get food with that
Oh,
cover.
okay. And the food's good, I'm
Great.
assuming.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's I haven't had it's hard to have bad food in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like truly bad, especially when you go to like Little Vietnam or Chinatown, things like that. Yeah, it's amazing. That's the one thing I wish we had more of that like the north side has, like the Thai food, the Indian food, the Middle Eastern food. We got the Mexican and the Chinese food
Yeah.
down pat. And Italian, but not the north side.
I used to live in Pilsen for a few years.
Okay.
And I do miss the food in Pilsen. It's so good. Up where I live now, though, I'm right by Little Vietnam and Little India.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't complain
Yeah.
about it.
You said Andersonville?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that area. That little town. It's like you could see it was once an old city separate from Chicago.
Yeah.
Based on Clark, like how it is, the setup.
Yeah.
It was annexed by Chicago. You could tell because like some of the blocks don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like the Chicago way, Pretty interesting. Great restaurants up there.
It's an incredible part of the city.
It
used
is.
to be, interestingly, it used to be the lesbian part of the city. So in the 90s, there were a few lesbian bars that were there that are sadly not there anymore. But North Hallstead or Boys Town was the gay part of the city, and then Andersonville was the lesbian part of the city. And honestly, I think I relate more to lesbians. So
Really?
so that's kind of like where I would prefer to be. Yeah, I have a lot of gay friends, and most of my friends are queer in some way. But like Mary Rose and Sam, both in my band are lesbians, and we are just like a really tight core of that. So a lot of lesbian friends. So I feel like it's apt that I live in that neighborhood. And
That you just relate more to lesbians, just around them more. That's all.
we get along a little better.
Than guys.
Yeah, oftentimes. Yeah, a lot of my friends are gay men, but there's something about a lesbian hangout.
I could see what you mean. There is something about when without a doubt, that there is anything that has to do with sex is just it's not.
Oh yeah,
It's not there. That really changes.
yeah,
When you can just be like, no matter what, we are platonic. Like nothing's gonna change it. And when you're opposite sex, that does really do something to like this ability. You get to have like the best friend connection, but a new perspective because it's woman to man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you learn a lot without having to have that guard up of like trying to like hit on someone or deflect or feel bad about their emotions.
for sure.
Yeah. So I could see why.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I do think that Sam and Mary Rose are in love with Bev, though. So it gets a little awkward in the hotel rooms, trying to like push them off. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I think Mary Rose would kill someone with her drumsticks. I'm pretty
Gosh,
sure.
Yeah. You have to be on her good side.
Yeah, I think I'm on a good side.
I think so too. She talked positively about you.
Good.
So you're safe for now.
She was great. Safe for now. She was hilarious to talk to, and she cracked me up. But she did say, like, as long as you're on my good side, I'm like, I like to be on everyone's good side. I've met scary people. I don't want to be on anyone's bad
Yeah.
side, and I don't like fighting. I don't like altercations.
Yeah.
I don't even like verbal fighting. I don't even like arguing. Can we just talk? Can we figure out what works best for us?
Yeah.
Did I offend you? What did I do? I'm sorry. I don't understand. People really want to like argue and fight now, and everyone has an answer.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen.
It's funny being in a band too, because it's like kind of like a relationship
Oh,
in
yeah.
many ways.
All the time. Without the sex, I
So,
say it all the time.
Yeah, it's like it's
What's
like
the point?
this like friendship plus professional plus there's money being exchanged and all this stuff, and you really have to figure out how to be in a band in a good way, or else it's just going to be so toxic. And it has been that in the past for me at times. But not with this current lineup, which is great because we are all we just know how to talk to each other, right? So I've known Mary Rose for many years. Even before she was in Bev, she was in a few other bands, so our bands would play together. And when our last drummer left and we were looking for a new one, we put an ad out. And she came to me and she was like, "How dare you put this ad out without asking me?" And I was like, "Girl, I thought you were either too busy or like wouldn't want to make time for this."
Yeah,
But she was like, "Of course I'm going to do it." So I took we didn't even like
Need the ad.
audition.
Oh,
or
that's
anything.
amazing. That's convenient.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
saves a lot of headache and awkwardness sometimes,
for sure.
Have you had to do it before? Just like have like a blind person, not a blind
Audition?
person, but a blind audition. Like you don't know the people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've never
yeah.
had to do that. I don't ever want to. It's
Yeah.
always been like a friend. Like you have enough friends who are like, oh, bass player can't play. Hey, yo, Tom, you play bass. You're in the band now. Like it was always like that. I almost had to like draft our friends to come back into the band, So I've never had to do like complete blind Craigslist Facebook posts, like try to find a bandmate.
We've had to do that a few times over the years, and we had to get a sub drummer last year because Mary Rose was on tour with her other band in Europe, her ex other band, and we got a really incredible drummer for the period of time that we needed him, and we got really lucky, but we did have to go through a few auditions to figure out who that person would be, and it's tough. It's like you never know, and it's like a relationship. Like you have to vibe with someone well. You know that you're going to be like on tour together or playing at shows together, and you're like, you don't want someone that you're not going to get along with.
Yeah, and just on a friendly level. Can we vibe? Can we hang? Are they fun? Are they cool? Are they nice?
Yeah, and they have to be good.
Yeah, they're good.
So
Do they
there's that
smell
too.
bad?
Yeah, and there's about 10 drummers in Chicago, so you have to fight every other band for them.
There's a couple more than 10. I know you mean, though. You can
Yeah.
find a guitar player every day, all
Exactly.
day. But yeah, a good drummer's harder. Bass, not as hard. Drums is the hardest, for
Drums
sure.
is hard, for sure. Luckily, Sam's been in the band. Sam's our bass player. She's been in the band since almost the beginning.
Oh, yeah, I know Sam.
We started out as a 3-piece, and I was playing bass, and bass is not what I like to do. I think actually one of the house shows we played, we were a 3-piece,
You
right?
were on bass.
I was playing bass.
I'm trying to remember who played drums.
It was the two other guys in the band, they kind of like switched halfway through the set. That was like the little gimmick.
Yeah.
So
was it
Aaron and Trevor.
Kodachrome? They were in Kodachrome?
Yeah, Aaron. And then
He had a lefty guitar.
He had a lefty guitar, yeah.
It's coming back to me.
Yep. So he played guitar half the time and drums half the time. So they switched
Okay.
halfway through the set, which was weird.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There was a lot of. I've been in part of it too. So many like incestual bands of crossover musicians, like 5 bands in a row. There's like all mixture of all the same musicians. Like at these couple of years you played DZ Fest, a lot of that.
Yeah, you can like look at these posters and make like a serial killer like yarn
if you look at
chart.
Black Glass,
Yeah.
Head, Bev Rage, you could start to see like a
all
lot
of them are related.
Definitely for sure.
For sure. And then our guitarist Dan, he's been in a million other bands too. Like he's in Black Glass, Diagonal, all those bands.
I love Dan.
Played there.
Dan's
yeah.
great. How's Dan doing?
He's good. Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, he's great. Lives in the suburbs now.
Oh yeah. Hi Dan. Missed you, Dan. It's been a while. There's a lot of people. It's hard to keep up with it all. When you do it long enough.
Yeah. But it's kind of nice though because we've had the same lineup since 2019.
Okay.
So there hasn't been any major shakeups, and after 6 years, God, how's it been that long? After 6 years, you kind of just get to know each other, and it works.
Yeah, and the pandemic did a weird thing to that timeline. You know what I mean?
We
For all of us.
played one show together in this lineup, and Mary Rose was the beginning one in March, or sorry, I think it was like February of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't play another show for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird time.
So weird. I played the week before. It was March 7th at Cole's.
Okay.
And at the venue, my guitar player, the singer, Vinny, was making like a joke like, "You think I can't believe they're letting us have this show? You think they're gonna be like canceled soon?" And the next week,
Yeah.
done.
That's
I
crazy.
couldn't believe
What
it.
band were you in?
Neighbors, we were playing
Okay.
with at the time. Yeah, that was about 5 years ago.
Are you in one now?
Yeah, same band.
Oh, okay.
And another band, Afterglows, but we don't play a lot. It's like improv music and
Okay.
stuff. Yeah, like kind of like what you were saying earlier, but I take it further with the not like putting in too much care, effort. I just want to make music
Yeah.
to make it. I also have heard every story from the thousands of people about how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
I see how hard it is. I'm like, I want to help people get to those levels.
Yeah.
I want to play my own music for who I want. It's the only part of me I don't have to post on the internet and sell and
Yeah.
post on Instagram and try people to come see it. Play 4 or 5 shows a year just because it's fun.
Great.
As long as like I can get a cool lineup, I'll do it. But yeah, I don't know. I played a lot. I've been playing in bands for years, and it is so exhausting. And it's the one last creative place I get to be creative and not, again, have to try to sell it and market it. So I want to keep it that way. And I'm like, I could probably just record and do bands and put on events and podcasts for much longer and keep somewhat of my sanity versus trying to do the band thing forever. And like, I also play a lot of really weird out there music, avant-garde and esoteric stuff that inherently by the numbers will never make.
Sure.
Even the biggest bands in those worlds, the Godspeed, you Black Emperors, they don't make that much money.
Yeah.
Let's be real. They probably get by, but when you're making avant-garde, improvisational art rock, you're never going to make it to like a healthy level that a bigger rock band or a Kanye West or something. You're just never going to be there.
There's just not the audience for it.
It's not digestible enough. And nothing, it doesn't even fit the psychology of why human beings enjoy music because it's asymmetrical. It doesn't follow patterns of chunking of like 3s and 4s standard. It's a lot of odd times. All that stuff that makes it to a human being can make sense of what is happening. It's not there. So it inherently loses most people. Yeah. Which I don't mind. I almost like that more. It's like, good. I want people who want to hear this to hear it.
And the fact that you are doing it because you like it is just like, I mean, why not?
I just enjoy it. I've always been that way. I'm terrible at song music.
Yeah.
I do. I've been a part of or personally put out like 15 albums just because I like playing music. And I have all the equipment. And that's the only reason why I actually started everything was so I can record my own stuff without anyone telling me what to do. And that's funny. That was the reason why I started DZ Records and recording it. And now it's like the last thing I do. It's like I actually do all the other stuff first to promote everyone and not myself.
For sure.
It's kind of funny how that works. But I'm happy with it. I don't mind. It's cool. I always like when someone does know a song or something or like, I like your song. That's cool. But I really like it more actually when someone's like, hey, I saw that video of this band you recorded, or I went to your fest and found this band, that band, this band.
Cool.
Or I listened to this podcast, with Bev and I learned so much about drag or, whatever.
Sure.
I'm like, that means a lot more to me because that means like I grew and did something with somebody and they got a lot out of it and I still get something out of it because they're still talking to me. Yeah. It's not like I'm losing something.
It's also
just about someone else.
It's something that you've kind of curated and you brought into the world.
Yeah.
So it makes it really special.
Yeah. It still feels like it's my thing, but it's about other people. It's a weird thing when you do have your own thing you created, but it is always to promote others. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird headspace. When people comment, you're like, are you complimenting me or the talent that I discover and like cultivate or like try to promote? I don't discover or cultivate, maybe promote, whatever it is. Yeah. Which one is it? I never know. But, but I think they're just maybe the compliment is thanking me for giving people a platform. Yeah. Because not everyone does that.
Trying to promote yourself is such a tricky thing. And it's it doesn't really work with my personality in many ways because I try to be humble and I try not to like bother people a lot in my life because I just want people to live their lives and not be infiltrated with things that they don't want to see. But I've had to learn how to promote myself and put myself out there through this band. And I've gotten much, much better at it, but it doesn't mean that I love it. That's a part of the music industry, that is still something that's hard for me to do because I have to like put my natural inclinations on the side to do it in some ways, because regardless of how much you put your message out there or put your music out there, there's never going to be the amount of people seeing it that should or that maybe will connect with it. So you have to do it over and over and over again. And my personality is like, if I keep doing this, it's going to get annoying. But I have to kind of put that aside and be like, if people are annoyed with it, they'll unfollow you or they'll just scroll past it.
Yeah, they will ignore it.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They're not seeing every single thing you're doing.
No, they're not. Yeah. It's a good point. You got to get out of your own way and realize, actually, I'm kind of being selfish. This is not about me. Most people aren't going to be looking at me. They're not thinking like, oh, he posted again, and then he did it again. What do you know? He's doing it again. That's not the way we look. We're so used to getting it every day that it's actually normal to see someone posting something new every day.
Yeah.
No one thinks it's weird anymore. Maybe 10 years ago, we would have thought it was weird. Not anymore. Now, if you post every other day, no one's like, oh my God, they're doing this again.
I know. Yeah.
It's like, no. Oh, they're doing what humans do. They post on the internet. That's what we do.
Yeah. And you should be like cognizant of not posting a bunch of bullshit. And I try to like put out higher quality things just because I think that's what people should be doing.
Sure.
But a friend of mine who's in a like pretty like popular band at this point, he told me that, and I don't know if this is like through a music marketing person or something, but nobody is going to pay attention to you until they see something from you a third time. So the first time they'll scroll past, the second time they'll be like, oh, that looks familiar. And then the third time they'll be like, oh, maybe I should listen to it, or maybe I should turn my volume on. So
what is he inferring? Like you should post frequently?
You should post more frequently and post like similar things more if you want people to actually like check out your music on Spotify or a better place that pays artists. So don't be shy about it and just kind of like keep promoting yourself because you might as well.
You got nothing to lose.
And life's short. Like, why not? Try to get people to learn about you. And do it in more places too. Don't just rely on Instagram because not everybody's on there. So
gotta get on your Facebook. Your family in Ohio needs to know about you. Am I right, Josh?
The Facebook needs to go away. I can't deal with it.
How's Facebook treating you?
I don't like it. It's not my favorite platform. Trust me.
And it's just funny because it's just Meta, and so is Instagram and Threads, and then X is Twitter. I mean, YouTube is Google. It's all bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. It's like 3 or 4 gazillionaires owning all of it.
Yeah.
Like having all of it. So you can't really get mad at one or the other. When people are getting mad at one, I'm like, they're all bad. Like so you're going to go to another one that some other billionaire owns?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't the billionaire who owns it, now it's a VC venture capitalist who invested in it. You got it from limited partners to get it there. And now they have someone who is rich, who does not care about it and wants more money, owns that thing. So I don't know what we're arguing about, but like, unless you can create your own, and you have the couple $100,000 it is to do the UX and UI design of it, and all the coding and encryption, maybe a couple $1 million, unless you're going to do that and then make it free and open source and never bow to advertisements or anything, which no one's going to do because that requires a lot of money, and you got to be cool and like an actually decent human being to think that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're going to complain about one, you should complain about all of them. That's the way I look at it.
It's really hard to like figure out what to do too, because I don't want to support Elon Musk, and
I don't want to support any of them.
Yeah,
TikTok,
I don't want to support
YouTube.
Twitter or Meta or anything.
No.
So it's like, where do I feel ethically? How do I feel ethically like able to do these things? But then you're like, well, if I get off everything that's bad, then there's not going to be anything left. So and nobody's going to know who you are. So what's the point?
The only thing I think you can do, in my opinion, is be aware of it. Like the fact we're talking about this, like just own it. Like admit that they're all bad.
Yeah.
They're all evil. They all exploit. They all underpay. They all extort. They all have slave labor in Africa and in Southeast Asia and in other places. They manipulate, they lie, they tamper with stuff. They do, all the bad is happening. So it's what can you do with that knowledge and do with your good through that bad platform. If you can put some good out into the world, shine some light, give people like you're talking about the teenagers in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
If you can do that, if you can touch people with it and be honest and transparent with it, and again, every night admit, like, I know what this is. I know about Meta. I know about Twitter or X, whatever. Then that's all you can do.
Exactly.
It's like when you meet someone. I always tell anyone, you meet someone who's really wealthy that grows up with it. Like, don't feel bad about being wealthy. Admit to it. Know what it is. Educate yourself on what you have and what others don't have, and then do something good with it.
Yeah.
Then don't feel bad. I'm not mad at you if that's what you're going to do with your life. I'm mad at the people who don't do any of that work. They don't do the groundwork. They don't admit to it. They don't want to, oh, that person's got more money than I do. It's like, you got 100 million. How much do you need?
Yeah.
That's the problem, is when you're like, when you complain about your first world problems, like you got Uber XL's not coming, you got normal Uber, like that kind of stuff, is when it's gross and why people say eat the rich. But if you're going to do something good with this gift you have, and you admit to it, and you own it, and you do the education of like what this means to you and your family and the generational wealth, there's nothing wrong with that. You should do something productive with it.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. Totally agree with
But
that.
yeah, the social media thing is brutal. It's getting bad.
It's weird.
It's so weird. The TikTok thing, the ban, and then
my
it came
God.
back, and I was just like,
I know.
I was very indifferent about it because I barely use it, but I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on.
I like TikTok, and I feel like it's, or it was, I don't know what it is right now, but I feel like
Something's going on.
I feel like it was like a really good way to promote yourself without like weird algorithms happening, but I don't really know how that works. But we were able to reach way more people on TikTok than anywhere else.
I bet.
And it felt more like natural, and that we were reaching like the right people. And there's less nasty comments on it, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
Than in some other places. I don't know what's going on now, but I'm still using it.
YouTube's is the worst
YouTube is bad.
because it has the most anonymous accounts.
Yeah.
I get you'll get one for this podcast. You will get a bad comment.
Yeah, of course.
I get one per episode. It's hysterical.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't really look at them. I used to get the emails, and I stopped doing that. I was like, I do not need to get an email every time someone leaves a comment. Because it was years ago when like nobody did.
Yeah.
So I'd always want to like get informed so I could like reach out, maybe grow a new fan. And then they started getting nasty and evil and bad. And I was like, I don't need to know about this stuff.
I remember years ago when I got like the first mean homophobic comment, I felt kind of proud because I was like, finally, someone doesn't like it.
What year was that?
It was probably years ago. It was probably like around the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
But I remember when it happened, I was like, yes, finally. Finally, someone's like, uncle in Kentucky hates me.
Do you remember what they said?
No. No.
But TikTok has been better for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. And there's like a correlation too between like if you have a video that does well and you'll see like your Spotify views go up, or recently I posted a video that got a pretty good amount of views. I hate talking like this, but
okay.
It got a pretty good amount of views, and
Like tens of thousands or something?
Yeah, somewhere around there. And I saw like 5 records were sold, like on our Bandcamp. So I'm like, oh, that's incredible, because that's actually like physically influencing people to buy your merchandise.
Yeah.
Which is really how musicians can make money.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Buy merchandise, listeners.
yeah,
You got
exactly. And even at shows, like even if bands aren't getting paid what they should be getting paid, go to the merch table, because that's how bands are surviving on tour.
They're surviving
really
off
is.
merch table and the Good Samaritan friend in their city that they sleep at their house for free that
Yeah,
night.
for sure.
That's how they survive.
Absolutely.
And that's why I've had an ungodly amount of musicians stay at my old house and this house.
Yeah.
And I always will do it. It's just always a fun time. You get to meet random people from around the world.
Yeah.
That's always great. It's easy to vet them if you're letting them in your house because you're talking on the internet. Just go do a little vetting, make sure they're legit. It's not that hard. And yeah, just showing people the new food and area, the cuisine around your area. Maybe they've never been to Chicago, and then you become friends. Now, when you go visit wherever in the world, you get to stay at their house. It's really fun, beautiful way to connect. But that can't last forever, and you can't do that with a family. And they gotta get paid, and the merch table's where it's at.
It really
buy
is.
those vinyls, buy the hats, the stickers, the pins, the T-shirts, posters, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's hard because that stuff's expensive too. Vinyl is not cheap.
It's expensive to make, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and prices at the merch table have to go up too. So, like, if you see a price that seems too high, just know that it's probably because everything else is more expensive.
Yeah, if you see like a beat up, raggedy punk rock band, just know they're not charging $35 for the vinyl because they want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me, because they know the people in their scene are gonna be rolling their eyes. They don't. They feel bad about it too. But like,
Yeah.
gas on the 15-passenger van is expensive.
Yeah.
You know,
We can't sell 7 inches for $5 anymore. It's
No.
just not a thing that
you have
can
70 of
happen.
12-inch too.
We have 12. We don't have a 7-inch right now.
Oh, okay.
We're hoping to make one, but yeah, our vinyls are 25, and that's like a discount, kind of.
Yeah, it's probably close to that just to get everything made. Did you do like 100 or 200 print? 300?
500.
500. Okay,
Yeah, we're almost out. So
that's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's amazing.
So
Remember when people would sell like 500,000 in like the first like couple weeks?
yeah,
It was
yeah, like
called,
our first album, of course.
It was called like 1999.
Yeah, exactly.
It was called pre-Napster.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Like
crazy.
one of my favorite things to do on Wikipedia is read like about old albums, not even old, just of our childhood. You know, like Shania Twain or like Mariah Carey, and you're like reading about it. It's like, oh, in the first week it sold like first day like 75,000 units the first day, and like real units, not
Yeah.
digital, well, maybe CD, but you know what I mean, not streaming. You're like, oh my god, like they made what I want in like 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
in one weekend, in one day.
It's a different world.
I know. I know. Those musicians of that time have to be like, we won the lottery. We came up at the right time.
Absolutely.
There's so many who did nothing and they became millionaires just because some PR guy, marketer
Yeah.
chose them to be the chosen ones to promote that week.
Yeah.
That's the only. Hope for those listening, it's not the talent. Hate to break it to you, it's not necessarily talent that makes you go far.
Yeah.
Talent helps, but how many talented musicians do you know?
0.
Couple hundred, right?
Yeah, probably.
A lot of them, right? Like so many, you can't
Yeah.
really give you a number. Same, right? So imagine if it was the logic was as long as you're talented, like you'll make it. No. So when people do make it, it's like you were talented and lucky. You just right place, had the right face, the right looks usually, and that agent was like, let's make them a star. Like
Yep.
it has nothing to. I mean, now that you have the weird anomalies of the algorithms and things that go viral, you know. But there's not longevity in that either, and those are getting struck by lightning. You can't equate to it. You can't like it. Just you obviously have to do the work for it to happen. But after you just do the work, it's up in the air.
Yeah.
You know, you never know what will like make something work and what won't. I never can make sense of why certain videos I have will get like way more views than others. I'm like, I don't. It's all this. I put up the same stuff all the time. I don't understand.
You can get really lucky sometimes, and it's all just like a crapshoot, honestly, whether or not something's going to actually pop off.
Yeah.
But like you just have to keep putting the work in and doing what you like to do. Of course, if you put more time and work into something, it's probably going to do better.
It's more likely for sure.
Which is like, if you release an album, you should probably tour behind it. You should probably promote it as much as you possibly can, because if you just put it out into the world and say, okay, this album exists, people are going to hear it, that's probably not true. People aren't going to hear it.
No.
Unless you really put in the time and effort to promote it in some way. Whether that's yourself or hiring someone or whatever, you have to do something, because you're not going to get lucky.
No,
Most likely.
you're not. You're absolutely right. I've made that mistake like 15 times. Put out records.
Yeah.
7 people hear it. 2 of them are my parents.
I wish I wish I knew what I know now. And I'm not saying that I know a lot, but when our last album came out in 2022, I wish that I knew what I know now to promote it, because I feel like it could have done much better than it did. I'm super proud of that album, and I'm still promoting it. But if I would have had the skills and knowledge that I have now, then it probably would have been much more successful than it was.
Absolutely.
But, that's growing and whatever.
How many albums have you put out?
2 full lengths and 3 EPs.
3 EPs.
Yeah.
And how about when's the next thing due, you think?
We're hitting the studio in a few weeks. And we're recording a few songs for the next album. So those will come out as singles. And then we're going back into the studio around like April
Cool.
to record the rest of it.
Which
most likely.
studio?
Electrical Audio.
Oh, nice. Never heard of it. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Rest in peace, Steve
Yeah,
Albini.
for real.
That's a bummer.
Yeah,
That's cool, though.
it's our first time recording there, so I'm excited.
You've been before, though?
I've never been there. No.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's cool. It's a unique place. He had it built to where it's completely separate from the world around it. So it's like a building hovering within a building, you know? So like zero vibration.
Oh, wow.
From the outside world gets in, nothing from the inside world gets out, and nothing from room to room. They're all completely separate foundations from each other.
Oh, that's
so like you could be wailing on drums to the next to the room where there's bass or like nothing. There's no like no.
Wow.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited, and we're really proud of what we have to take into the studio too. So it'll be fun. It's been a few years in the making.
Really?
Yeah, we were kind of on hiatus last year for most of the year because
Okay.
of Mary Rose's tour schedule.
Oh.
So we
Mary
weren't
Rose
ready much.
causing problems.
She is the worst. I swear.
Oh my goodness.
No, we did play a decent amount last year with our sub drummer, but we did a tour of Pansy Division last year with him. We're actually playing their 1,000th show in San Francisco
Oh, when's that?
in April, so that'll be fun. Bottom of the Hill, and we're probably going to do a few shows around there. Playing Gilman Street, which is like an iconic DIY venue from the early 80s, I think, late 80s, something like that.
Around that long.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that'll be fun. That's not separate. That's separate from the Pansy Division stuff. So
Okay.
we'll
Are you
play-
driving out there or flying out?
We're
there?
flying out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's a far drive. It's an amazing drive, though.
it's pretty incredible. We toured out there 2 years ago with Bully on that tour, and touring out to the West Coast is much harder than touring the East Coast.
The East Coast is a breeze.
For
Every
obvious
1
reasons.
hour to 2 hours, you're in another major city. And the West Coast is like every 8 to 12 hours, you're in another US city.
Yeah. When you have those days where you know that you have to drive 10 hours and then play a show, it's like, fuck, I have to wake up at 5 in the
Oh,
morning
that sounds terrible.
in our Motel
But
6.
it is a more beautiful area.
It's true.
You
Good
going
point.
from Vancouver to San Diego, I mean, that is stunning. That
Gorgeous.
drive.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the West Coast is non-conducive. I never even know how the music scenes. There are different kinds of music scenes. They can't be like ours. In order to thrive, if you're in Portland, you're near nothing.
Yeah.
Like in here, we are 1 to 5 hours away from like 20 major cities.
Yeah.
Like literally in every direction. They're just all over the place. Every
Yep.
state's got like 4 or 5 of them. They're everywhere. It's amazing. East Coast even better, but West Coast, you're like, what? I don't even know. I guess smaller college towns, you know, stuff like that.
I guess so, yeah.
That's all you can do. I feel bad for some of the younger bands that like just started. Like, how do you do like a normal mini tour? You do like Spokane, Seattle, Portland, Eureka, California. Like that's it. Like I don't know. Like there's only so much you can do, and they're all far. You know.
It is pretty nice. I kind of took it for granted for a while, but it's nice to be able to like play in Milwaukee or Madison or Minneapolis or Detroit, and it's all pretty close.
Very
So,
close.
St.
Grand
Louis.
Rapids, St. Louis, Bloomington,
Yeah.
Urbana-Champaign. Yeah, like Indiana's got a bunch of places.
Yeah.
People forget about like where Muncie has a spot. Where Purdue has a good spot. Notre Dame, South Bend, putting up Bloomington, Indiana, which is ISU, is also Bloomington, Illinois, which is ISU. That's funny.
Yeah, we've never played in Bloomington, Indiana, but I've been there a few times. I used to go mushroom hunting.
Like psilocybin mushrooms?
No. Well, I wish, but no, just like regular mushrooms.
Okay.
I have like a background as like a kind of like an ecologist.
Is that what you studied in college?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, but you didn't tell me, so I just didn't ask you.
I studied physical anthropology in college.
That makes
so,
perfect
Like
sense.
primate
Bev.
behavior. Yeah, exactly, right. But I used to go mushroom hunting around the Midwest, and I would hunt for chanterelles and morel mushrooms.
Okay.
And Bloomington was like my spot, so I would always go down there. But they also,
why is that the spot? Is they just
I had a friend that went to that college,
Okay.
and she was kind of like my mushroom mentor, and she would teach me how to find them. So we would go down there every year for years, and but Bloomington itself is such a cool little city, so I would love to play a show there. But those are the towns where it's like, oh, this small town in Indiana, that can't be cool. But then they have like this really interesting art scene there.
It's a great music school too.
Yeah, and people that will come out to shows. So sometimes shows at a place like Bloomington, Indiana will be better than shows in New York City.
Yeah.
Because
It's not oversaturated at all.
that's the
Nobody
thing
plays there.
That's the thing they have that night. So everybody goes. So it's kind of
Same
great.
with where I teach at ISU on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I go down there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But at ISU in Bloomington, Illinois, they have like 2 venues. So if you go there, like no one has anything to do. There's like the Night Shop and the Castle Theater, and like that's it. So if you go and play, everyone comes because there's nothing to do. That happened when I went on a brief tour with this band from New York, Workwife. They needed a guitar player 2 years ago, actually, like at this time. And we went to Dubuque, Iowa, and there was only 2 venues in the whole town, and we were playing one of them that night. And I was like, I've never been to Dubuque. None of us thought anyone was going to come. Packed show. Like, I don't know if they do sold out at this bar, but it was like packed.
Is that where the Raccoon Motel is?
So the Raccoon Motel is in Davenport. This is the
Davenport,
Fox Den Motel, which is owned by the same owners.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so the Fox Den is in Dubuque, and then the Raccoon Motel is in Davenport, which is also a cool spot. You've been there?
We played there before. Yeah, it was
cool
fun.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, same owners as that spot, funny enough, yeah. And
I mix up all those cities that are like right there in Iowa. So.
Yeah, Iowa City, Dubuque, Davenport. Yeah, Iowa. I don't know. It's a lonely place, I tell you. That Dubuque was real lonely. Worst Chinese food I ever had in my life.
Oh, that's sad.
It was okay though. I'm spoiled. I live by the best.
Yeah, exactly.
But the venue was packed, and it was funny because it wasn't people really our age. It was like all ages, like a lot of old timers.
Okay.
Because there's just nothing to do.
Yeah.
So it's like the sound guy who escaped from being a sound guy at a cult in like Arizona. He had a wild story. He was I don't know.
Okay.
He was telling us like, oh yeah, there'll be some people here. And we're like, really? Because it was like pitch black and dark and a candlelit like stone basement. I'm like, this is like us and like the sound person and like 2 people. Oh no, it was packed. They thought we were famous.
Oh,
When you're selling merch, they were just coming up to you and like, those small towns. They really think you're famous. Just because you came from Chicago. They're like, to them they thought we were really famous because they were coming from New York City.
Oh, okay.
Brooklyn, and I'm coming from Chicago. So they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The big city people, And I'm like, this is so funny. We're just like, I'm selling this other band's merch, and they think they want us to sign stuff, and everyone's like circling around, like trying to get in and talk to us.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen my whole life with anything I've ever done. Nothing. I go to Dubuque to play in someone else's band at a place I've never been, and I'm treated like a rock star. I'm like, this is so funny.
It's really fun when
it was
that
really
happens.
funny. Yeah. It was cute. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was nice. I'm like, I finally got some appreciation for playing music. Not even in my own band, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
it feels nice.
and
And
then
it's
we,
always cool whenever that happens too, because you actually feel like they really appreciate that you come to their town. That's why I like playing small towns often, more
definitely
so
felt
than big
that way.
cities.
It
Yeah.
did. Big cities, you almost feel like they're doing you a favor, right? And then when you go to a small town, you feel like you did them a favor. Like, oh my God, thank you so much for coming here. We get 17 bands a year,
Yep.
And in Chicago, you're like, is anyone going to come? I don't know. Maybe. No. It depends. Like, you're playing soon at the Empty Bottle, right?
We're at
February 15th?
We're at the Bottle on the 15th, yeah.
The Edging and... Not Edging.
Not Edging. It's No Men.
No Men.
And Daisy Chain.
Daisy Chain.
Yeah.
No Men's awesome.
I love No Men.
like No
Persley
Men
and
a
I
lot.
are buddies, and we played a million shows together, and they should be way bigger than they are.
Yeah. I
one
don't
of
think
those-
I've ever been introduced to them. I'd love to talk to them, but I have seen them play like a good amount of times, like 5 times without even trying. I've just gone to shows and they're playing. Like, I've seen them a lot. Always liked them a lot.
They're one of those bands that's really unique. Like, I can't think of anything that really sounds like them. I mean, they kind of fit into some genres, but seeing a No Men show is just really specifically unique. And I'm very proud and happy that we're friends and play shows together, and we have someone like that in our scene.
Yeah. That should be this will be out, I think, right before that, so it's perfect. We could talk about it.
Great.
Go to the show this Saturday, everyone.
please.
This might come out like the week before, so go to the show.
February
15th,
15th.
the Empty Bottle. It's probably going to sell out.
Maybe we'll see. It's the first show we played in Chicago since last June, so
might.
it'll be
A lot of Saturday shows at the Empty Bottle, especially with like a bunch of locals that people enjoy. usually sells out.
Yeah, we're hoping it will.
And it's kind of like a Valentine's Day one.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally
Bring your lovers.
I'm gonna go with my girlfriend. We're using it
Great.
as a Valentine's Day thing. One, because she apparently tried to get reservations everywhere and you don't get it, and I was secretly like,
just
I
get
was
some
like, no,
just get some pizza
we can't
next
go
door.
get food, no reservations.
Amazing.
I love it when it turns out you can't go to a restaurant. I'm never upset. I'm always like, great, I could save like $200. That's awesome.
Yeah. That show will be really fun though because we've been playing the same set for like 2 years, honestly, and almost half of our set is going to be brand new.
Oh,
so
cool.
it'll be like the first time we're playing some of
That's
these new
great.
songs.
It'll be like a whole refreshing thing for me. I'll
Yeah.
know the music.
Exactly.
That's cool. That's cool.
So at
any
least,
other
like,
big shows coming up or anything else you want to promote?
Let's see. So we have the Pansy Division San Francisco show in April. That's April 19th.
If you're in Chicago, drive out.
Exactly. And then we are usually very busy during Pride Month. So in June, we'll probably be playing a decent amount of stuff. Nothing's been announced yet. I think I can probably say that we're playing Anderson Movement Summerfest again.
Oh, cool.
Which is always super fun. It's right around my house, or right around the corner from my house. And then we always play Chicago Pride Fest. So we'll probably be playing that again.
Is that like is it free part of like the Pride? Is it just like on the street?
It's Street Fest.
Okay.
Yep. And all of those are free.
Okay.
Even if they ask donations, you don't have to pay.
Technically, that's true.
You can save that $10 and give it to us. I'm kidding. You should support the Street Fest and the Chambers of Commerce, but we need it more. And
Ooh, I don't know. This city's suffering.
that's true. Good point.
I guess we all need it more, the city and us.
Yeah.
Oh, don't even
Yeah.
get me started on the city and this money. Anyway.
Yeah, but we're hoping to tour again this fall. So we're just kind of waiting on a few things to happen. It's always nice when we are picked up as tour support. It just makes touring much easier for us. So if like a mid-sized band asks us to go out with them for like a week or so, that's the optimal like situation when it comes to touring.
You don't have to do all the dirty work. They kind of do
They
it
have
for you.
they have their booking agents that do a lot of the work,
Yep.
which is nice.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't happen, we'll go out on our own. And most likely we will do at least like a few Midwest runs this year. So keep your eyes out. Booking is like a 6-month in advance thing now. So we're working on like July at this point, which is
such a headache, isn't
wild.
it? Do you do
Yeah.
everything, all the booking?
I do everything.
Yeah.
So all the band management, booking, everything. And
Isn't it the worst?
honestly, for the most part, I like it. Booking is its own thing, but at this point, at least booking in Chicago isn't as hard as it used to be because people know who we are, which is nice. We can reach out to a venue and we won't get ghosted at this point, which would happen a lot, and it happens to a ton of bands is you just won't hear back. Booking a tour is a whole other beast. It's tough because you have to get a venue to book you, and then you usually have to find support for that if you don't have a booking agent or a promoter involved. So that's tough, especially for a band like us where we predominantly like to find other queer bands to play with. So we'll try to play in like Minneapolis, but then we have to find 2 other bands to play with that can actually bring a crowd. So, but I mean, it's fun. I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I'm a little controlling, so I like having that control.
Like you were saying earlier,
Yeah.
you wanted to kind of do everything. So with the music, you kind of taken a step, not doing as much, but then kind of more in just the band management part and stuff. Like
Yeah,
just booking
yeah.
and just making sure you promote stuff. And
I've always been the only one that does the band management stuff. As far as the music goes, I'm still writing most of it, and I write all the lyrics and I write
Okay.
all the vocals and all of that.
so it's very much still kind of like your
For
your
sure.
band, yeah.
But Sam is my kind of like writing partner at this point, so we will get together often and write stuff together, which is nice to have her perspective on things because, you know, after 20 plus years, you kind of fall into your own little like habits.
Yeah.
And it's nice to get out of them sometimes.
Yeah. It's also a good skill set as a musician to learn the booking and the management and the promotion. Because if you're, I have a lot of bandmates or been with bands where people just always opt out of that. And then 5, 10, 20 years goes by and they never learned that skill or those relationships for like how it even works. Like literally, how does this work?
Yeah.
They don't know it.
Yep.
And they screwed up because they could have had like a free bachelor's degree in that. That's literally a music business degree.
Yeah.
That you probably have now acquired just through doing all this, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I always recommend if you're in a band, I'm not saying do it because it might not be your personality type, but like learn as much as you can about it.
Yeah.
And you'll get screwed less. You really will.
You'll get screwed less. I think that by learning all this basically through experience, it's allowed me to kind of like negotiate pay a little better or figure out how to promote things in a better way or talk to booking agents in some way. And it's been kind of fun to experience it and almost like fail to try to figure out what to do next time. I don't know if that's fun, but it's kind of fun to me because I learn lessons and I don't repeat mistakes. So I just kind of like learn my lesson and move on and don't do it again. So yeah, it's definitely its own experiential degree that I've earned over the years. But I'm still learning. It's not like I'm great at it or perfect, but
I learned about it. What's been the biggest curveball has been the social media thing, like learning what to post, what time to post, what the person was telling you, how often do I post? Should I tag? What should I tag? Do I do a collaboration with this? Should I invite them too?
Yeah.
What if they don't? It's a whole, and that's always changing too. Well, make sure you have it do this, and make sure that you have it do a promotional ad at this time, and it goes to your thread. You're just like, is it?
Yeah.
When is it ever going to end this learning curve of like technology?
Yeah.
Can you imagine not knowing any of it and just trying to leap into it at like 40 right now?
Oh my God, no.
And you like never use this technology?
No way.
Oh my God.
There's so many things when it comes to streaming that you have to learn how to do. And I am currently trying to learn these things. I've had this kind of like ethos of not paying for promotion my entire life. Like, I don't think that I should have to pay for there's like certain sites where you can pay to get reviews, basically. And I've had this mindset that I should not have to pay for that. That should happen on its own because we as musicians are underpaid and we have to pay for so much on our own anyway. But there are things that I've done that have proved helpful and I'm learning more. So just like paying a certain amount for there's a thing called like Submit Hub, and it's not perfect and most of it's going to be rejection, but you can submit to be like on playlists like Spotify playlists or other sort of streaming playlists. And it's been kind of helpful to try to learn that. And there's a ton of like YouTube tutorials and stuff that's kind of boring and kind of like against what I believe in, but I've been learning how to do it just because I think it's a necessity.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that everybody should go out and pay for promotion in any way, but you should probably just learn what that does for you and how to actually do it just in case you decide to. But yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing to have to do and learn.
It is. I agree with you too. I never know what to do with like buying stuff or paying for stuff. Like even with Instagram when you can like do like a promotional ad for something, I'm always like, even just doing like $5, $10. I haven't done it forever for some reason and it won't work with my credit card. Or I've like updated it and I just refuse to do it.
Yeah.
But I used to do it and it does work. Like if you say $10, you will get way more engagement, more likes, a couple more followers, more people seeing it. It just takes your profile and puts it into the feed more.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Yeah, I don't know, it does feel, you're like, I'm already barely making any money, spending money. I gotta spend more to do this thing. I don't know. But yeah.
I really want more people to like see what we do and be able to hear our music. And that's really the end goal of things. I just feel like it's kind of like icky sometimes the way that you have to go about doing it, which kind of makes me like skeeved out by it.
But don't be, because at a higher level, you have to do way worse things to get people to play it.
It's true. It's true.
You know, you
Good
think
point.
the people that are making $100 million a year just did everything perfect and cute their whole life to get where they are?
Yeah, true.
Look what's going on with Diddy right now. Think of everyone beyond it. There's a lot of musicians that have done some awful stuff to be
For
who they
sure.
are, either to themselves, for somebody, or to other people to step over them.
Yeah.
So if all it is that you pay a little bit here and there to get on a playlist, I think you could, with your conscience, you could sleep at night compared to like what other people have done to get, to get ahead or to get somebody else ahead, illegal or just awful, unethical stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what to do about our weird rigged system we got going on here, but
It's all weird, and
I am grateful we could talk about it.
Yeah.
You could play music. You're free to do what you want. I'm free to do what I want.
Exactly.
You can't do drag in a lot of countries.
exactly. Yeah.
We can't even talk away. We've been talking in a lot of places.
And we might not be able to do it in this country soon.
Touche. You got me. You got my own medicine.
Yeah. Well, I remember back in like 2023, there were all those drag bans. Do you remember that? Like, there was one in Tennessee that basically said that you can't do drag in public, and there was a law that got repealed, but it was on the books for a little while, and it was really fucked up because like doing drag in public is it's basically like you wouldn't be able to do it outside of like a 21 and plus venue.
Okay.
And we've played in Tennessee since then, but those laws, which I am pretty sure will probably pop up again now that it's 2025. Those laws are inherently just transphobic if you think about it, because the law basically states that anyone, it's labeled as a drag ban, but it says if you are wearing the opposite gender's clothing in public in front of children, that is against law or that is illegal. So
That's bizarre.
Anyone that is a trans person who...
Wait, does that mean a woman can't wear pants and what are we doing?
These laws are fucking stupid,
That doesn't make any
and
sense.
they don't go into
Can
they
a
don't
Scottish
go,
person not wear a kilt?
they don't go into detail,
You
which
know?
makes them even more open to interpretation by the police or by your bigot mayor or whatever in your
Whoever,
small
right?
town.
Yeah.
So they're intentionally vague so that a trans person who walks down the street, they could say, "Oh, you are corrupting those children that just walked past you," and it's really fucked up because it's labeled as like this. Oh, drag is like inherently sexual, or it's like inherently vulgar, or something like that. But it can be interpreted in so many ways that it just makes it like vague on purpose. And I'm scared that that's all going to come back. But it kind of brings me back to the point where we're not going to stop playing in like red states or Republican states because of those things. I don't want to get arrested, but there needs to be some sort of safe space for queer people in those places, because trans people aren't going to go away, and they're always going to exist, and they always have. So it's just a really scary time for people in the queer community and women and people of color and brown people, because like everything is kind of turning so quickly.
Yeah.
And it just makes it very scary for people.
Yeah, you're right. It is weird. That's why I try to talk about it. I mean, try to talk to my students about this.
Yeah.
Be open and say yes to every person that I ever work with. I mean, just to show, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You want to express yourself, let's do something. I don't, the rest doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And it is weird and it's sad, and being aware that I don't fall into a lot of those categories, so I do something with this. That's why I did the fest the way I did. I was aware, like, I don't think a girl would be able to pull this off, because I think women wouldn't be taken as seriously if they were trying to do something so wacky. Yeah. They'd be like, most adults, when I was a kid doing all this, would look at, just my assumption, would look at a girl and be like, honey, you shouldn't be doing this. This is like dangerous. So you're just having all these people at your house and all these musicians sitting there. Like, no, don't. Like, people would just shut it down. Either her parents, somebody would not be cool with a girl doing all that herself. They just wouldn't be. If I didn't look like me, if I didn't have the same skin color, who knows what my neighbors or the people would have just conjured up to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They just would have. I'm not stupid. So I started to be self-aware of that as I kept doing it, because I was like, how do I get away with doing all this crazy shit? Like, I was doing some crazy, you were there, wild stuff. No rules, no permits, no insurance, nothing. And I started to realize, like, I think it's because I'm like literally such an average man that I fit perfectly. I don't stick out. I'm not too tall.
Yeah.
Not too small. Not too white. Not too black. Not too, just like perfectly get to hide in plain sight. And I did a good job of making sure my community was cool with it. But just to get to that point,
Yeah.
people got to be cool with you initially before they even become cool with you, just based on judging you on how you look and how you speak. And so I knew that. And I became self-aware of it. So I was like, I should do something with the fact that I can do something.
Yeah.
And therefore, I have to do something because I can. And I've been trying to live like that as much as I can, but it is weird. I hope that these 4 years blow by and we just move on. And But, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's a scary time, but it's also a time that we can't just like put our head in the sand.
No, we can't.
Just like let it happen.
Nope.
So
keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Do what you love. Talk about it. Let people know, like, just trying to do my thing, help others, promote art, share creativity.
Exactly.
And if people listen, they realize, like, oh, if they're judging something on drag or trans or gay, if they hear someone just do that, like, oh, you might not convince everyone, but you can get a lot of people to be like, oh, maybe I'm kind of overthinking this. Maybe I'm not understanding this. Maybe I'm judging the book before its cover. It's certainly going to be better than fighting and just bashing and calling each other's names. That will never teach an old dog any tricks.
No.
Won't. Even though it's easy, it feels good to do. It just won't. It's not going to help. But I don't know. I think we got to stick together, help each other out, promote each other. Go see you at the Empty Bottle on February 15th.
Exactly.
Go see you on the West Coast in the spring.
Yes. Please
At the Pride Parade in June. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Funny enough, before we end, I got stuck in the Pride Parade once in 2009. I was going to the Vic Theater to see Sonic Youth.
Okay.
And my friend was in a Toyota Corolla, and he turned onto like Belmont, whatever was a main, maybe Clark, whatever was a main road for it. And we got somehow pulled right between two floaties and got stuck for a long time between, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
Were you just like waving? Okay.
Yeah, we just started waving. My friend had a sunroof. He rolled the windows down, started blasting Teenage Riot by Sonic Youth. And then it got weird when like a lot of the guys, because we were like all 18, 19. Yeah. Some of the guys started getting wild and like tried jumping out in the car and like dancing, and we're like, just let us out of here.
Yeah.
When you're 18 and you're not gay and you're around a couple thousand gay men, in 2008, different times, the phones were not out. So it was nudity. It was wild.
Point, yeah.
Not that it isn't now, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like just not scared, just like, I don't know what's going on kind of thought. Like I'm over my head in this circumstance.
Yeah.
And then we got out of it and I was like, that was wild. It really was. I've never seen anything like that since. Like to be in the middle of it at like a really naive age, I've never seen anything like that. Yeah.
Playing the Pride Fests are so much fun because like those crowds don't usually come to venues. So you get to play in front of such different people that may or may not know who you are, probably not. And it's really fun because well, you're outside, of course, and there's a built-in crowd, but you get so many people that are coming to the city to like celebrate Pride, and usually young queer people, and they'll be like, oh, I thought that this show was going to be like cover bands, number one, or like a diva from the 90s like singing her one-hit wonder. And then they see like this drag-fronted punk band on stage playing like all of our own music. And it's like, what is this? And some people will probably walk away, but a lot of people will be like so intrigued and be so appreciative of it. And I actually am very appreciative of the promoters of that for booking bands like us. We're probably one of the only all-original bands that gets to play those things at this point.
That's awesome.
At least the Pride Festival. Midsummer Fest actually has a ton. It's actually a really good music festival because it has some good music promoters behind it, booking. But Pride Fest in general, we are usually bookended by like the gay cowboys who are like dancing, like they're like line dances, and then like right after us is like the boy band or something, or like the boy band review, or like the cover band or whatever. And it's like this weird queer punk band in between these two other things that are so different from us, and it's so much fun because like we can like go line dance and then jump on stage and then go sing the Backstreet Boys afterwards. So it's great. It's so much fun.
That sounds really
and
cool.
just like a totally different experience from like playing the bottle on like a Saturday, which we also love, obviously.
I mean, it sounds like you've played a wide variety of shows.
Oh my God, so many,
like
so many things. Yeah, yeah.
You know, which is cool.
So many.
You probably
things.
never thought you would be there when you first started at 31. This band, right?
For sure.
Wow. That's kind of a good thing to end on to like inspire the listeners.
Yeah.
That you started when you were young. Seems like you had some issues with just life, you know, going through stuff, and then you recuperated. 31. Most people are 31. They usually start bands at 19, 20, 21, you know?
Yeah.
You're 31. You're like, oh, no way.
Mm-hmm.
And then almost a decade later, you're still playing, still doing stuff, working on another album at Electrical Audio. You get to play one of the only bands to play Pride Parade in Chicago. I mean, really cool.
Yeah.
Playing the Empty Bottle on a Saturday night. Who doesn't dream of that living in this city, you know?
Exactly.
That's
and
cool.
We're still having fun. That's the main thing.
That's
it's
the
like,
most important thing. Enjoying it, having fun.
We're still having fun. We still are proud of what we're doing. We're still coming up with like new innovative things to do. And that's kind of like the moral of the story is we're not bored and we're not boring. So keep doing it until we are, I guess. So we'll see how long that lasts. But
definitely not
I don't
boring.
see an end. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Maybe tell everyone where they could find your music, socials, things like that.
Yeah, so almost everything is at Bev Rage and the Drinks. So just type in Bev Rage and the Drinks on all social media. BEV. Yeah, BEVRAGE, not beverage, Bev Rage. And some of my social medias are at Beverly Rage. So TikTok and I think like Twitter and Blue Sky are at Beverly Rage. But go listen to our music. We have been starting to tell people to get Tidal, which is a
Tidal's great
streaming platform that pays artists way better than Spotify.
And it has way better audio streaming. Mostly lossless. You can upgrade master files. It's way better.
Yeah. So go download Tidal. I don't think it's that much more expensive. Or
for the premium one to do masters, I think it's like $30 a month. But for the standard one, I think it's like about the same, like 15 or 20.
Yeah,
like
it's like the same as
Spotify's
Spotify.
20 for family plan. So
exactly. So go download that because artists get paid way better on it. But if you only have Spotify, that's fine too.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Got to do what you gotta do.
And remember, they're all bad. Don't even get me started. We'll go down the wormhole again. Yeah. They're all bad.
But the cool thing about streaming, though, is that you can find so many other bands that you would have never found otherwise.
Absolutely.
I've dug through so many record bins and have found so many bands, and I can just do that at a click. And that's a good thing. It doesn't mean it's great for the artists, but it's good for discovering new music, which I really value. So,
buy their vinyl.
Yeah,
buy their vinyl, listen at home, and then you streaming when you're in your car and your walk, and then at home that's what I do. It's the way to do it.
Yeah, and people can also find us on Bandcamp, where you can buy our merch and our vinyl.
I like Bandcamp a lot too.
We make very cute merch. We always use all local artists, and we pay them fairly for all of our merch. And we print everything locally. We use a local screen printer. We print our vinyl at Smash Plastic, which is in Chicago.
Love them.
We use local artists to make all of our artwork, so everything is hyper local, and all the money goes back to us.
That's amazing. Keeping the money local, helping out people.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bev.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good to have you on there.
Thanks, Ben.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
In a different light. And talk to you. Get to know you.
Next time I'll come as Bev.
You know, it's funny. Mary Rose is like, I wonder if he's going to come as Bev or not. I was like, I don't know.
I was in drag twice this weekend, so I was like, I can't do it again.
We'll have to, maybe this summer, sometime fun, we should do the whole band, and you could, as the outfits or something, we could do everyone.
Yeah, I was going to mention we should do a live stream or a live session,
Do that, and then afterwards you can do a fun band one.
Perfect.
I can't imagine you and Mary Rose together, so.
She's the dominant personality in this band, so we'll keep her at home.
Well, it was great to see you again.
Thank
you for coming in. Thank you for all that you do. And I hope you inspired some people that might be afraid to start a band or get into it because they might be like, I'm too young, I'm too old, or whatever. Yeah. So it's never too late. Do whatever you want. Start a band, make music, be happy. Do drag. Go to a drag show. I'm going to go to a drag show. Never been to a drag show.
Please do.
I'm curious.
They're fun.
I bet. I've only ever heard good things, to be honest. Right? I'm excited.
I've never seen a bad one.
There you go. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening.